time, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. Before we get started, there's a couple of announcements I'd like to make. There has been an item pulled from our agenda, and that is the Riverwood subdivision. We will not be discussing that item this evening, once again. Let the record show that Alan Krause, Steve Barrow, and Julio Dumas are not present. We'll move on to item 2, the swearing in of the new planning commissioner. Mr. Parrington?
Yes, you can just there. Yeah, and I'm going to swear you in for both the Planning and Zoning Commission. You swear to affirm the rules and regulations of the Ascension Parish Planning and Zoning Commission, the ordinances of the parish, and its laws of the state of Louisiana? Thank you.
All right, then we'll move along to our next item, which is the public comment period. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on an item that is not up for public hearing on our agenda, please come up and do so at this time. Sign in and you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Item 5, acceptance of the minutes of the July 12th, 2006 meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I have a motion by Scott Courtwright, seconded by Don Grant to accept. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask all the commissioners if they would go ahead and get a microphone in front of them for the audio. Item 6 on the agenda, acceptance of minutes of the July 12th, 2006 Special Plan Unit Development Meeting for Orange Grove.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept by Mike Bardwell.
Second.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 7, acceptance of the simple division of property approved by the Planning Commission Chairman from July 1st, 2006 to July 31st, 2006.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion to accept by Scott Courtwright.
Motion second.
Second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 8, public hearing for the granting of the following family partitions. Item 8A, the Alan J. Bourgeois property, tracts A-2-A and A-2-B. Is there anyone here representing this property? Good.
I'm Carl Bourgeois. I'm the one that's parents are giving me the property. I live on the property and trying to get it put in my name.
Commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? There are no questions or comments. We'll go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, please come up and sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak. One more time to the commissioners. Questions or comments? What's the wish of the commission?
Based on the fact this meets the ordinances stands, I make a motion that we approve the family partition.
I have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell.
A second.
Second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 8B, Milton Thomasy property, lots SD-1 and SD-2.
I own the property and I'm going to give the back of it to my son.
Sir, could you speak into the microphone, please, for
I
me?
said I own the property and I'm going to give it to the back part of it to my son.
Okay.
And I'll give a 40-foot right-of-way as the parish requires.
Comments, questions from commissioners? There are no comments or questions from commissioners at this time. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up, sign in, you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commissioners?
Just one, they show a 15-foot utility servitude on the back of the
Right.
SD2. Is that where utilities are currently?
There is no servitude back there. They said they had to have it this time.
Hang on.
Utility, drainage. And where would the 12-foot utility servitude be?
On the north side.
Okay, I see it.
Still
Never
in the
mind.
front.
Got it.
Yeah. Correct the drawing.
Correct, make correction.
I'll make a motion to approve, based on the fact that they're meeting all of the rules, regulations, and standards as set forth by the parish, with the exception that you make an addendum to the drawing stating 15-foot servitude, take off the word utility.
Right.
I have a motion to approve by Scott Courtwright.
I'll second.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Let's see, item 8C was removed earlier. Item 8D, the Danny Boudreau property, lots D-1-G-2-A-1 and D-1-G-2-A-2.
Hi, I'm Kathy with Earls and Associates on behalf of Danny Boudreau, and I'm asking for approval on the final plat. Excuse me, the following plat.
Comments or questions from commissioners at this time? There are no comments or questions from commissioners. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to pass it.
I have a motion by Don Grant to approve.
I have one question. Again, on utilities, Charles, that's okay with it just being at the front of the servitude of passage and not coming down?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 8E, the Henry E. Gonzalez property, lots A-1 through A-3.
Ellen Jackson with McLean and Associates.
Chairman?
This property is being subdivided to give to his children. There weren't any comments. We're asking for your approval.
Comments, questions from commissioners? there are no comments or questions, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this property, please come up, sign your name, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak on this item. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve based on the fact that there are no comments by the review agency and they've met all the standards and ordinances set forth by the parish.
I have a motion to approve by Scott Courtright.
Second.
Second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 8F, Daniel B. Rushing property, lots A-1-A-1 and A-1-A-2.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates. These lots are being created to give his father the back lot. There weren't any comments. Asking for your approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Your father's name?
Elijah.
Okay. It looks like there's A1, A2 has that name, and also A2A has that name. I was curious about that.
A2A, that was from a previous subdivision, and his daughter lives on that tract. This lot is going to be for him to live on.
That one is for my sister that she's living in it. I own the property, property off the old folks' road.
Oh, she's talking about this one.
Okay, so it's all still family?
Yes.
Just for a point of, I just want to make sure I understand. You said his daughter lives in
Elijah. She was saying that Elijah's
A-2-A, and you said that your sister is living there?
Elijah's daughter is his sister.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm just,
Well, she was asking me why Elijah's
Family
name.
tree.
yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to keep up with it to make sure. I just, any other comments or questions from commissioners? If there are no other comments or questions, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this property, please come up at this time. Sign in, you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Last time. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion that we approve based on the fact that it meets the current subdivision ordinances.
Have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell
I'll second.
and a second by Sherry Slyman. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 9 on the agenda is our public hearing for granting preliminary approvals. 9A Wesley Place.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates. This is a 25-lot development. And the comments that we had, they were addressed. And we're asking for your approval.
Before I open this up for the rest of the commission, I've got a question. And it pertains to the comments, but from what I'm looking at, they were not all addressed. Drainage impact study comments. 1D, update the post-developed model to reflect the proposed fill for this site that would take away any conveyance through the natural low-lying area of the site. Consultant did not provide.
DeWitt Ladden with McLean and Associates. I misunderstood their comment. I've since addressed that comment with George Hudson at CSRS. And I talked to him today, actually, before I came to the meeting. and he didn't see a problem with it. He hasn't finished reviewing that comment, what I gave to him, submitted, but he didn't see any problem with this comment. He said it was something we could address during construction plan time, if necessary.
Mr. Sanji, are you aware of any of this
I'm
conversation?
not aware that it was submitted. Basically, if you look at the plat, the issue is that probably from around Lot 5 towards the front to Black Bayou Road, where there's a lot of off-site water that's coming into that existing ditch, and we're concerned with the fill that'll be placed on lots, well, the detention pond all the way up to Lot 5 or 6, and whether it would restrict that flow. I mean, the final comment we made was that it could affect the size of the ditch and the size of the rear yard servitude possibly being larger than 15 feet. I'm not sure what your analysis showed, but
I went ahead and I increased the servitude to 30 feet instead of the 15 feet as we had originally shown, to enlarge that perimeter ditch there. And running the model, everything worked out. But like I said, George Hudson has not had a chance to review that.
Because, I mean, one of the things that I've been noticing here, not just with this one, but other developments that come before us, there are comments are not being addressed. And in fact, I think this is an item I want to bring up under new business for more discussion.
It was my mistake. I misunderstood their comment. But I've since, like I said, went back and addressed it.
I understand that. But at the same time, it's still coming up before the commission. We're still looking at it. We don't have a clear picture. We rely on our ERA to help us understand what is happening with these issues so we can make a better informed decision. So, I mean, personally, I'd consider this to be a pretty important piece of information. And even though it's with CSRS today, here we are at the meeting. Comments, questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have a question about more so for the commission as a whole. We had some discussion a few months ago about these construction standards. Mr. Sanji, we were talking about fill in a wetland area and that sort of thing. Where are we at on those? Are those construction standards out, approved? Are those what we go by now?
it's my understanding they're going before the council next Thursday.
Okay. I mean,
But let me just make sure I understand your comment, because you mentioned fill in the wetlands. It's not addressing where fill can be placed. It's addressing how the fill is compacted and the quality of the compaction.
okay.
Not necessarily a restriction. As far as wetlands, we're totally reliant on the developer to, do what he has to do with the Corps of Engineers.
Okay, well, back to the developer. Where are you guys at on the wetlands issues, permits, and that sort of thing?
You'll be able to address it.
I'm Rodney Sheets. I'm the developer. We are in the process right now waiting on the request. We've requested the permit from the Corps, but we haven't received it yet. So that is active right now as we're waiting for their return information from the Corps on those results. There is some wetlands on the property. I think it's a little less than 1 acre, and we're going to have to mitigate that. But we can't start anything out there until that has been satisfied. But we're trying to get our preliminary plats ready. Hopefully the permits will be in shortly, and we can move on with the project. But we have applied for the permit.
So from lot 7 to the front of the subdivision, you said there's only 1 acre of wetland?
That's what was told to me by
It's all
Mr.
hashed in from lot 7 all the way up to Black Bayou Road. Pretty much looks like to me.
Yes.
Bigger than 1 acre, it looks like.
He told David Tumpley is the engineer doing my wetlands delineations, and that's what he just told me. I don't have anything to back that up. It was just a verbal communication.
I'm just curious.
But it
to
does
see-
look like more than an acre on this map. This
Yeah.
is the first time I've seen this map, to be honest with you. But we are in the process of mitigating this property and clearing it up with the Corps. But there's no water standing on this property. What declared us as wetlands is the vegetation. There's no water standing on this property. It's in
I'm
Zone
a
C.
wetlands guy.
Okay, well, you know where I'm coming from.
That's why I asked those questions.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Michael, I've got a question in regards to the comments being addressed. When were the comments issued?
Help me out on the timeline, Charles, but let me try to walk through the process. Well, let's just take next month. Today was the deadline for next month, right? Charles receives the information, makes sure that it is a complete submittal, and forwards it to us Monday. We take, I think, 1 week to review the studies, and then we issue comments to the developer or his consulting engineer. They have, I think, a week and a half under the new schedule, Charles, if I'm not mistaken, to resubmit to us, and then we have about a week to review those comments and then write the final letter that you see in front of you today. So, if I'm not mistaken, they have somewhere between a week and a half to address the comments once we make them.
If there's a situation that requires modeling to get you a sufficient answer, is that enough time, or would that tend to push comments from
Well,
being addressed?
We have pre-application meetings, and for the intent of trying to inform the consulting engineers of the best we can of what we think they're going to need to do, hopefully in the intent that when they submit the original study that it does address these issues. A week is not a very long time. I will agree with that, but I do believe that the things we're asking for have not changed since we've come on board. There was some change obviously when we came on board, but I would feel that they should know what to do, and they know ahead of time they've only got a week to address these issues. So, but it is a short amount of time. But I mean, we operate under a short amount of time to review them and give them the comments as well. I mean, the whole process is intense.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the having to increase the 15-foot drainage servitude and the taking of off-site water? Can you elaborate and tell us what the consequences of that may be? I mean, if it's not done or not modeled correctly?
Well, the consequence is just that the size of the servitude would get larger and larger, and 30 feet into the lot, you've got to start looking at, is the buildable area of the lot still protected? I mean, is there enough lot there to have a 30-foot, or even if their calculations were wrong and it had to be wider than that? I just looking at this from face value, I would think if he's going to 30 feet, that's probably going to be sufficient. But I haven't seen the numbers to back that up.
So you wouldn't actually be satisfied without looking at that further?
Well, I can't
I
tell
don't
you.
wanna
I
be
can't
putting you
tell
on
you.
the spot,
Well,
but
I
I
can't
wanna
tell
make
you
sure.
that 30 feet's enough without looking at it. I mean,
And this is, I'm taking it this is off-site water coming
Yes.
from the west
that's correct.
that would typically flow into the property?
Well,
And what you're trying
it's
to do
kind
is
of
make sure
the-
that the side ditch is big enough to handle that?
it's probably best explained just as overbank flow as we run across all the time. In heavy rain events, the ditches in this parish not only fill up, but they expand out beyond the banks of the ditch where the flow may be. The flow of water in its current condition is going over lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so our concern was when they dig the detention ponds, they're going to place fill on these lots and build the pads. And when they do that, they start to restrict the channel. And you can offset that hydraulic effect by widening the ditch itself, which is what he's basically proposed to do. So we're just trying to make sure that those property owners, lots B7A, B7B, that the act of filling these lots doesn't increase the water surface on their off-site property.
And the side ditches on the development, they do not drain into the detention pond. Is that correct?
I don't, DeWitt could back me up on
That's
this. I don't
correct, they
think
don't.
these are.
They don't.
Right. This is strictly trying to deal with off-site water and route it around the development, and we're trying to do it in a manner that it has no impact on the adjacent properties.
Could I add something? I don't want to, I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying, I don't want y'all to think that I just got these comments back to them today. It was last Thursday that I, as soon as I saw this comment, I jumped on it and tried to get it back to them the next day. But,
Any other questions or comments? And at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name's Kenny Tomplay. I'm a lifelong Ascension Parish resident, living just downstream of the ditch that drains, that starts on this property in question. And I've been there for 25 years down Melissa Heights, which is across from the property in question. And that drainage ditch flows right through my property. And over the 25 years that I've had my home built there, we continually see during flash flood rains the water getting higher and higher, through the years, through that property, through my property and my neighbors across the street. And it originates from that ditch, that drainage ditch originates on that property. And it crosses Black Bayou and then comes on down by my property, which is several hundred yards away from Black Bayou, down Melissa. I'm concerned, as all Ascension Parish residents, about the continuing developments that are going on in our parish. And I've seen some pictures where the landowners and homeowners that have been there for years, and one subdivision that was recently built, that their neighbors flooded out in a flash flood rain. And I think that I wouldn't have a problem with people building on the land as it is, but we keep building up and building up and building up, and the water needs to go somewhere. And I just heard him comment about the detention pond would not take the water in from the natural flow, that it would be for the lots themselves. And I have a severe problem with that, and the drainage coming towards my home and my neighbors' homes. So I'd really like to see this be real considered as far as the approval of this development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Carlos Giron.
My name is Carlos Giron. I'm an adjoining property owner who was made aware of the development. The land was always my grandfather's, subsequently left to my mother, and now it's mine. I'm an environmental consultant by trade. I work in Baton Rouge. And when I first got the Section 404, the wetland permit public comment request, I did a little bit of research, and as you've already mentioned, and as Kenny just mentioned, the wetland issue raises serious concerns. You know, I strongly object to them coming in simply because the reason those wetlands are there is it's basically a natural drainage sump for many of the surrounding properties. There's really no large tributary that has feeds into that area. How is this accessible?
Hit the button, turn it on. There's a on button on the bottom.
And according to John Herman, he's the Wetlands 404 permit specialist with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's actually close to 2 acres of wetlands. On the 10 acres, about 20% of the property is wet. Oh, I'm sorry. So that's actually, according to Mr. Sheets' documentation he submitted, that is the 2 acres of wetlands that are on the property. And as y'all mentioned, it feeds in from this area of the property and actually goes and crosses Black Bayou. I know during periods of heavy rainfall it actually goes over Black Bayou Road right now. And like Kenny was saying, if you look at, these are contour lines showing what the current elevations are, and you can see this is where the wetlands are. It's about 10 feet above sea level. All the surrounding areas are at greatest 2 feet above that. Mr. Sheets proposing to build this development to anywhere from 13.5 to 14 feet above all the existing surrounding areas, excuse me. So, you know, water that used to flow in there will obviously not be allowed to if you build up the property that much, and so adjoining property owners like myself are now going to be forced with a new flooding issue that has never existed in that area. Recently, I took a drive down Black Bayou Road towards Airline. There's a new subdivision, Port Cocher, where they did the same thing. The surrounding areas were built up. The new subdivision
30 seconds, sir.
is about 3 feet above sea level. And now when you drive around, you can see the adjoining property owners who have signs in their front yards, "Thank you for flooding me. I've never flooded before. Now I get 6 inches of rain from a heavy rainfall." So I just hope that the Planning Commission can look at this, a serious issue. The 404 permit is open to public comment until August 14th, and I'd like to provide y'all with my personal letter that I've written to them asking them to deny the 404 permit, and I ask that y'all seriously look at this issue because there's a lot of adjoining property owners who may have serious problems, and they've lived there their whole lives. I don't think it's equitable to allow new people to come in and not have flooding issues when the existing people now have them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Peggy Myers.
Mr. Chairman, I request an additional 3 minutes since I am speaking on behalf of 2 individuals who own property adjacent to the Wesley Place proposed subdivision.
Normally what we do if you are speaking for a group, we'll allow you 5 minutes rather than 3.
Thank you, sir. This letter is from Joseph Clark Myers, who resides in Kansas at the present time. I am the owner of property adjacent to the proposed Wesley Place development. Although I am no longer residing there, I have a deep personal interest in the proposed development. I was born and raised on the adjacent property and have been and remain a frequent visitor to Ascension Parish. I am quite familiar with the area. Let me state that I'm a firm believer in private property rights and am not opposed to reasonable development. For reasons of maintaining the natural beauty and appeal of that area, my preference would be that the property remain undeveloped and unspoiled. However, as stated, I am an advocate of personal property rights and do not oppose development per se. Development, however, should be required to meet reasonable standards of environmental protection and safety, as well as visual appeal. The proposed residential density in the application is totally out of character with the surrounding area. The concept is visually unappealing, but I recognize that appearance is a personal matter and difficult to quantify. It is difficult to imagine, however, that anyone would favor this dense development to the current state or to a more reasonable number of residences. My early recollections and recent observation are of an area that is very susceptible to flooding. Removing most of the trees and vegetation and replacing it with pavement and homes will eliminate practically all of the ground's ability for normal absorption of rainfall. That water has to go somewhere. The one planned street seems to be designed as much as a drainage ditch out to Black Bayou Road or adjoining property as for resident ingress and egress. One can easily picture water that cannot be absorbed into the ground rushing into Black Bayou Road. Over the road, flooding would not be a new experience for that area and now stands to be severely excavated. My lifelong and recent observation of Black Bayou Road is of a rural road with narrow or no shoulders. There is heavy vehicular traffic, often as high speeds and unsafe passing is common. The intersection of Black Bayou Road with the proposed egress street does not appear that it would be a location of an electronic traffic control signal. It also appears unlikely that it would be a three-way stop. My assumption is that Black Bayou Road traffic would have the right of way with a stop sign on the proposed Blake Drive. Given the amount of high-speed traffic on Black Bayou Road, there should be a high level of concern for public safety regarding egress at this location, both for vehicular and pedestrian traffic. The proposed density appears to be unsuitable for an area not served by a sewer system. As a non-resident, you may give my concern little or no weight, but I've always been concerned about health issues regarding the lack of proper sewage treatment in the parish. It does appear that at some point some reasonable controls must be instituted, and this would be a good place to start. Not only with the proposed Wesley Place, but other dense population proposals as well. Surely this is not an action that can be postponed indefinitely. Surely the Parish Council and all public health and safety agencies share my concern for public health and welfare. I hope you will give serious consideration to these objections. It appears appropriate that the development as proposed be rejected and reasonable guidelines be provided to the applicant regarding population density, public safety, and public health issues, and retaining more of the natural beauty compatible with the surrounding areas and in consideration of current and future neighbors, so that a more suitable proposal could be developed if applicant chooses to do so. Second letter.
You've got 10 seconds left.
I am Ralph Myers, address 43212 Black Bayou Road, Gonzales. This is just east of proposed Wesley Place. I own or co-own two other pieces of property.
Ma'am, time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. If you'd like, you can submit those letters to Mr. Becknell right there for the record.
Jerry Miette.
Okay. I live right next door to this land. I've been there 19 years. I watch the water come and go. It builds up. It drains that way from west to east. We put in a right-of-way for my neighbors in the back to Tone Place. We put where the kids are living. We had no problem. We come in. We put a drainage ditch. As long as the parish keeps it clean like they promised, we have no problem with the flooding way, but it still builds up like a rain this evening. If you go on that land right now, I bet you my best horse at the house, you're going to sink ankle to knee deep back there, because I didn't walk that land before, been there. And it's just the way the water flows across there. He put his subdivision, I got no problem with that. But you build up, you're going to flood me. I ain't been there all this time to be flooded. You can watch the water run from the corner all the way across the way it floods. It drains. We fight with it. Like they say, it goes across the road in bad times, but it's a low, wet land. It's always been. Anywhere you see power meadows, it's wet land. And you can change the course of nature, and you're going to give us problems. That means we have to move and try to stick somebody with that house, and you know they're going to be flooded. That's not right. So I ain't got no big fancy words in that. I'm just an old country boy. And you can't push water uphill. We done tried. We done dug these ditches twice, like I say. We went with a little one. Couldn't get it to go up. We got a bigger one now. So far, the water travels pretty good when the water's moving. But them boys in the back, they get a lot of water in their places now. And all the way to the back, to the last house, they get water like a lake in their yards. I just can't see them building these houses, build a ground up way above us and flood us out. That's not right, you know. Me, I want to just die right here because it's Ascension. This is me. I'm a Gator fan and from the start. So let's don't put us out like that. Because I just can't see that. We got people getting ready to build houses in the back, and they want to make that their home. But if they build a house, they're going to be flooded. But he can build his subdivision, but let's don't jack the land up. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Terry Tompley.
My name is Terry Tompley. I've been living off of J.B. Tompley Road all my life. It's on the west side, the Wesley subdivision. And they talked about draining from lot 7 to the road. I live approximately around lot 12, 13 in the back, 1 acre from the back. When we have a good rain like this evening, my yard floods. At times I get within 5 inches of water getting in my house. I drain all the Plessis property and the Bourgeois property in the back. They come across the front of Miss Barber's property at the end of my road, and I'm the main drainage, come through my property. The parish came, changed the ditch around, because the man that owned the ditch before, all it was like a handshake years ago saying they can come in there and clean the ditch by hand, but not by machine, and he agreed to do that for us to help us drain. Well, they finally, I guess we didn't know what was going on at the time, but the man that owned the property sold it to his grandson, I think that's what it was, and they came to the house, and the parish finally got approval to dig a ditch from the back of our property all the way to Black Bayou, which we all signed because we figured it would benefit us, you know, at the time, because he did have the right to close that ditch up if he wanted to, because it never was signed in the parish. So we all signed it, and behind my house, you can come all look, there's no ditch because I dip right there. The ditch starts by Miss Barber's in the back. She got a good ditch, but when it gets to my property, I'm pretty much like a swirl. And it goes to the front, and an acre from my house, which is my sister lives there, the ditch gets deep, it goes to the front. When it rains like tonight, I got water in my yard. I ain't got the problem with the water in my yard because I've been there. But if it build a subdivision, I guarantee you water going to be in my house. I don't care if they build a 30-foot ditch from the back to the front. It's not going to benefit me because it's going to be where the highlands at. My question is, who's going to guarantee me I'm not going to get water in my house? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what they do. But if they put a pump, I'm going to get water, and Miss Barber going to get water. But I'm concerned about it because from lot 7 to the front, that's more than an acre because I got Mr. Miette lives right there, that's an acre. My brother lives there, that's an acre. My sister lives there, that's an acre. Then my sister lives, that's an acre. And then I live, and then Miss Barber. So I don't know how they determine 2 acres of wetland that's more than that.
30 seconds, sir.
When the land, when it rains, the wetland takes the water. You can walk on that land, you get 2.5 foot of water, all back up in the woods. The high land is in the back. The front land is the low land. And the water got to hit Black Bayou, then it's got to go back up to Mr. Myers' place. And then it sits there because it got like about 18, 20 inch cover that only goes across Black Bayou Road. The ditch on the other side hadn't been cleaned over 25, 30 years, maybe 40 years. It's a little old ditch because they ain't got about 25-foot right away, and there's trees growing up in it. That's where Mr. Kenny was talking about. There's no water flow, no ditch. They can't clean the parish told they can't get machines on it.
Time.
Because they don't have the right of way.
Thank you, sir.
Barbara.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Stapleton. I reside at the dead end of J.B. Tompley Road. I have 2 words for you guys. Landlocked. That is what I am in back there. I'm surrounded by other people who drain on me. The way that my water flows to the back of the property that adjoins the subdivision in question, if that land is filled in, I'm going to hold more water than you can shake a stick at. Even in the smallest rain, my front yard totally fills up with water. I have watched it come within inches in heavy rains of my doors and windows. I've even had the parish actually turn me down for sandbagging, which is almost unbelievable. My very first year in the home, we had heavy torrential rains, and I was so scared to death I was going to flood, it wasn't even funny. The only thing that I can say is if this land is built up, I'm going to be in a real pickle back there where I'm at. I've already had problems even getting the parish to come out there to give me drainage for my septic. They wanted me to install a sprinkler system on my lawn when I first moved back there, and I thought everybody was crazy for that. And it finally came to, after fighting and gnawing my way through everything and threatening with 2 on my side, the parish finally came out there and dug that ditch along the back of my property for my septic to drain in, as well as my water. Mr. Terry Tomplay is good enough to put a small, I don't even call it a ditch, it's just a little valley across his front yard for me that does now drain my front when it rains. But if they close up those wetlands, it's going to be even worse than it's been in the past. And that is my biggest concern. I just want someone to guarantee me that I'm not going to get water in my home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Boyer.
My name is Mike Boyce. I reside across the street from the project, and where the water crosses Black Bayou Road, there are times that I've got to drive through, I don't know, 16, 18 inches of water to get through. They've changed the culvert. Used to have 2 small culverts, now they got 1 big culvert. And the culvert size, that's the bottleneck. It still stops when water crosses the road. And then when it does cross the road, it gives people down Melissa the problems. They'll fill up. So, you know, if their elevation comes up across the street, it's going to be a major problem down towards us on the lower end, because that water's got to go through there and then it heads towards Stevens Park when it gets past Melissa. So, you know, I don't know if they have 30-foot of right-of-way down Melissa to dig a bigger ditch for them to get rid of the water. So maybe increasing that 30 feet or whatever at the new proposal. Don't know if that's going to help us out, because we're in the middle of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it. No one else. Ms. Jackson, Mr. Lavin, want to come back up? You've got your 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay. First issue, I think there are some comments made about building up the land. We're not intending on building up that land. It slopes from the rear to the front. I think the highest elevation is around 13, 14 feet. That will remain toward the front. We may be placing about a ½ foot of fill for the first 3 or 4 lots. But beyond that is where the wetlands are currently. There's going to be detention ponds, and those detention ponds will act as the wetlands act at the current time. Water will back up into those ponds for storage. As far as the perimeter ditch on the west, that ditch will be improved. I mean, that was one of the comments. That's why we're proposing a 30-foot servitude there. That will only help the drainage in that area. I mean, to clean out that ditch and enlarge it. As far as subdivision standards, I think we've met what's required from Ascension Parish. Other than that, I don't have any more comment.
Okay. Comments, questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I
sir.
ask a question to Mr.
Certainly.
Ladner? The ditch, the contours you're showing on the plat, is
Mhm.
that representing on-the-ground survey?
That's right.
So as I understand it, from Black Bayou Road back to your lot 3 or 4, it appears the ditch is on the adjacent property.
The center, you're talking about the west perimeter ditch.
Yes.
The center line of that ditch runs, I would say, within a quarter of a foot on the boundary line right there.
But just according to your contours, it appears that it's predominantly on the adjacent property and not on you.
Well, the top banks.
The top bank is on your
That's
line.
correct.
And then as you get further to the back, say from lot 4 to the back, it appears that ditch is pretty much on the property line.
Well, I think it's on the property line all throughout.
All the way, okay.
I mean, the contours may not reflect that.
Okay.
I've looked at it.
Comments, questions from the commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On Mr. Sanjay's sheet, or the engineering sheet, I see 25 lots. But on your plat, I see 27, and maybe I just am not seeing it correctly, but I can't find 27.
Should have been 25.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand something. Okay, we don't have the post-developed model.
Right.
Correct? Okay, so
Well,
we don't.
they do. It has gone to CSRS, but
But we don't have it.
we don't know what, there's been no discussion about it to tell us what.
We have to complete our letter and send it to Charles a week and 2 days before the meeting so that you can get it. And
Right.
The answer to that question is it was submitted at about the same time we were getting your letter to you, so obviously we could not review it and include that in the letter.
Right.
The ditch on the west side, y'all are saying you will make it 30 feet if required. Is that what I understood?
We're going to provide a 30-foot servitude and enlarge the ditch also.
No, sir, the public comment period is over with right now. This is the time for the commission to go ahead and discuss the issue and act on it. That is something that they were just discussing and
And is the 30-foot servitude going to go all the way up the west side of the property?
It will go. There is a small swell that intersects it about halfway up the property line. That's where we are proposing to improve that ditch, but we can improve that ditch all the way up to the north property line. A lot of there's a area of off-site that drains into about midway up that property line. That's where we're planning on improving that ditch too.
that is a satisfactory answer to your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Once again, what's the wish of the commission?
Michael, I'm gonna ask again, just to make sure I understand. Y'all have not had the opportunity to review this as needed, correct?
That's correct.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we defer this until the ERA has sufficient time to review this for accuracy of the drainage engineering.
Have a motion to defer detail next month by Mike Bardwell.
When's, is it more than 30 days?
What?
The next meeting. You have to act on it within 30 days. So unless he agrees to that, you're gonna, if it's less, if it's more than 30 days. That's my concern.
I didn't think it was. I thought everything fell out.
When's the next month? When's the next meeting?
Charles, you got?
So it would be more than 30 days. So unless they're gonna, you've got to act on it one way. It'd be 30 days if you don't take any action on it. So unless he agrees to that deferral, you're gonna need to act on it tonight.
I would ask, is the developer willing to defer? To defer until the next meeting so the ERA can review the drainage, the engineering of the drainage.
And the next meeting is the 13th of
September 13th.
September 13th. Yes, we'd be glad to do that.
Motion stands.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mike Bardwell to defer, seconded by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 9B, Westwood Commercial Park. Angie, with the record show, Mr. Barrow has arrived.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Norman with Evans Graves Engineer. We're looking at development of a 30.77 acre development, commercial subdivision. The proposal is for 23 lots with a public septic lot. We would provide commercial streets. Commercial street section is provided with 27-foot wide commercial streets. Existing buildings that will be removed and on-site sewer collection and treatment. There has been an agreement established with the adjacent property owner to the north.
Comments, questions from commissioners at this time? Well, I'll go ahead and ask a question then.
Yes, sir.
Drainage impact study comments. Item 6, has DPW been contacted by consultant regarding their comment on the DPW drainage information form? Consultant responded, DPW has not been contacted concerning this issue.
My name's Eric Erickson, also with Evans Graves. On that comment, we stated a reply in the drainage impact study, and we thought that was good enough for DPW. If we need to do anything else for Bill or anything like that, we'd be happy to do that. It's an off-site problem that they asked us to look at, since we were also looking at our site in the area, and we provided a little bit of information for it, a little bit of survey information for them. We provided the results in the drainage impact study.
Okay. Comments?
Yeah, I've got a question on number 17, staff comments, number 17. The agreement with the adjoining property owner, is there some letter or proof of that agreement, or?
We are.
Has that been submitted to the records we have?
You should have a copy of that. That was,
missing it?
yeah.
We do have a copy, but I can also resubmit to Mr. Beck.
That is
Maybe my other
Neighbors
staff.
Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
You got it. Sorry about that.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Originally, this was supposed to be a larger development, wasn't it, including all the 90-some acres Mr. Odom owned?
Yes.
And it was divided because?
Well, the developer is no longer associated with the residential portion of the development.
Okay, so y'all are going to do this totally separately?
At this time.
Okay. I noticed the roads. The roads are my concern. If there is going to be a big residential development behind this, I wondered about road access to Airline Highway through the commercial part.
I've discussed that with the developer, and he has no objection to providing stub outs. We can revise the maps to provide stub outs.
Okay. And I had another question about the front lots on Airline Highway, 3, 4, 5. How will they be accessed? It looks like, will they be get access from Airline Highway?
Yes, but there's also a 40-foot, servitude of access along the front of those lots.
Okay, so but they will be accessed from Airline Highway directly?
Yes, ma'am.
With one drive.
With one drive.
Okay, and the speed limit in that area is 65 miles an hour, isn't it?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And we've addressed that. I saw a couple notes about acceleration and road improvements.
What exactly is your question?
Well, the question is, are people going to be able to slow down and get out of traffic to get to those places? Because that speed limit is 65 miles an hour through there.
Well, we have our traffic comments. We have looked at providing deceleration lanes and median brakes within the traffic impact study. So, Bert, would you like to comment on that?
I saw where there's a break for the south entrance and exit, but I was not really clear on all the acceleration, deceleration lanes.
My name is Bert Moore. I'm with Neil Schaefer Engineering in Baton Rouge. I analyzed the median break at that south intersection, and based on the unsignalized analysis, didn't warrant a left turn lane into the site. That intersection performs at an acceptable level without a left turn lane.
If you are traveling north or south on Airline?
Well, the intersection was studied as a whole. It didn't warrant a northbound left turn lane into the site,
okay,
or a southbound left turn into the site.
Okay.
And people were able to enter and exit the development at acceptable levels of service.
Okay.
I guess just for a point of clarity, I'd like to go through all of these comments one by one and get some input and feedback. I'm just going to read one at a time and get information. I'm going to reiterate the fact that Michael stated earlier, when the ERA is asking for additional comments, you know, it behooves you to get those comments answered before this meeting, because this is getting to be a big problem. We've got a lot on this one. I'm going to just start at the first one. Providing a 15-foot drainage servitude along all exterior boundary lines. Is that an issue?
No, it is not. We can provide that.
The consultant, the 25-foot front building line rather than 20-foot.
No problem.
I mean, these seem like relatively easy things to address. I'm not understanding why there wasn't addressed prior to the meeting. Is there anything you'd like to state on that?
We will address the comments, and I'm sorry that they weren't addressed earlier.
I'll defend.
I'm just trying to see if is there a reason that this is happening?
I'll defend them on the first comment. Our comment said that they should provide a 15-foot rear yard servitude. We really should have stated that we wanted it around the perimeter. It's actually a side yard servitude, the lots 11, 12, and 21. So that was probably a case that we did not properly state what we were looking for. That's on the first comment.
We can provide that.
Okay, the third one deals with earthwork mitigation calculations do not account for all of the proposed fill that would be placed in those areas, below the base flood elevation of 14 feet preceding station 1150 and after station 19. Is that clear enough to
Sure.
address?
It was our intent not to provide any fill in those areas. Obviously, what we showed, the ERA didn't convey that clear enough. As soon as we got that comment, we immediately called them and told them that we did not intend to put any fill in those areas. So if we need to do any further exhibits or show any more calculations, we'd be happy to.
Let me ask a question there. The property, in case we are correct and you do need more mitigation, there's an area to the east of the pond that doesn't show any indication of what it's to be used for. Can that area be utilized to extend the size of the pond?
I believe so.
Believe so?
Yes.
Is that a firm yes?
Sure. Yes.
I thought Mr. Odom's property only went to across from Highway 42. Did y'all purchase additional property to the north of that?
I'm not following the question. The north of our side?
Following up on his, you sounded a little hesitant about that answer, and I know Mr. Odom, his property there was a driveway directly across from 42, and then there was a little sign and the fence, and that property to the north, I did not think it was a part of that property, so that's why I'm kind of following up his question.
I think it is an additional or another owner, but the owner, the developer, has contacted that owner and has made agreements to put his detention pond on that area. Now I don't know if it's Mr. Odom or now or formally, or I really don't know who owns that land. I'm sure the developer does.
The fourth comment, the consultant clarify the proposed improvements to the existing on-site pond that is located in Lot 20. Is this pond going to be filled in? Then how would the rear of Lot 20 be accessed?
Again, as soon as we got the comment, we in the same conversation as the other comment, we notified the ERA that the existing pond will not be modified in any way. Access to Lot 20 will be provided by a 30-foot servitude of access on the rear of Lot 19.
Is that shown on the plat right now?
In the older one, probably not. In the one we updated with all the comments, it is shown.
Where's the updated drawing? Why don't we have that updated?
Do we have a copy of it?
We can provide you with a copy.
Michael, I'm going to assume that you've seen this updated
I have
plat.
not, no.
You have not seen it.
Ready to make motion?
I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question, dealing with the comments on the off-site traffic improvements to 42 and Airline intersection. Comment A, the addition of one exclusive westbound right turn lane.
My name is Eric Lockridge. I'm an attorney with the developer. I'd like to just make a brief comment to address A through D. And that is just that we're concerned that these off-site traffic improvements are an impact fee on this development, and that this development might be getting treated differently than other developments along Airline Highway are being treated. There are several developments going on along Airline Highway. We're certainly willing to contribute to the improvement of Airline Highway, but what is here is unfair to us, makes the project undoable. We would like to work with the commission to come up to some solution where we contribute, others contribute. We'll volunteer to take the lead in working with DOTD to get state matching funds. Those are available because this is a state highway. But requiring this development to pay for all these costs is unfair, and we think is an impact fee that the Development Code doesn't allow for.
I'd like to state that we do have a traffic impact study, and that was done by a traffic engineer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the traffic engineer in the impact study stated that these things needed to be done. And that's all part of policy.
That they all needed to be done?
Some of the improvements that are recommended in the impact study, such as the northbound left turn lane and the modification of the signal, those would be necessary for the developer to add an additional lane, and those would benefit him. However, the westbound right turn lane is more of an issue of existing volumes. The additional construction on Airline Highway, different developments, will most certainly attract additional right turns from 42 on Airline. And it's not solely the cause of this development.
Excuse me. Let me go ahead and clarify for y'all. We are not looking at any other developments but this one right here. This commission has been told on numerous occasions we cannot look at any other developments. And if we can't look at them, I'm not going to allow y'all to look at them. This is the development we're looking at. This is the traffic impact study that we're looking at. Mr. Sanji, did you review the traffic impact study for this development?
Yes, we did.
Do you concur with the recommendations made by the traffic engineer?
Well, I think our position consistently has been is that if a development drops the level of service for a particular turning movement or for a intersection as a whole, then we rely on the developer to make improvements to the intersection to get it back to where it was. I'm presuming, unless you're going to say otherwise, that these improvements is what was necessary to get it back to its current operating condition.
I'd like to reiterate that that's exactly what the traffic impact study says. It was based on this development, and everything that it says dropped because of this development from one level of service to the next.
And unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Parrington, question is for you. How does our ordinance read pertaining to this?
The ordinance relies on the traffic impact study, and that's the traffic impact study. This is not an impact fee, it's a requirement of traffic impact study.
It relies on the traffic impact study. It's not an impact fee. We're going with what our ordinances require based on this development, not any other developments, which we are not allowed to look at. So, gentlemen, do not refer to any other development on Airline Highway, because this is the only one we're looking at. And we're looking at these recommendations made by your traffic engineer. Period. Let's move along.
I guess the question is, are you prepared to address these comments? A through D?
Look, guys, I'll go ahead and help you out. If y'all want to get a deferral, and we can resume this next month, so that's fine too.
Can we go ahead and do the? Okay, we'll go ahead and do the traffic improvements.
So A through D?
Correct.
Concur with that? The last comment, confirm with the developer that they would be responsible for the improvements at Airline Highway South Entrance intersection, including A, a median break, B, northbound deceleration lane, and C, southbound right turn lane.
I addressed comments in response to the comments that were initially sent on the traffic impact study. Performed analyses on this intersection with the median break relocated to the south intersection of this property. And that analysis indicates that deceleration lanes, northbound and southbound, are not warranted.
Michael, I don't see where that's addressed. Can you elaborate?
I'm not sure that I'm either. You're saying that you are willing to put in a median break? I mean, let's take them
Yes,
one
sir,
at a
that's
time.
correct.
So you're agreeing that the median break is necessary in order for your calculations on the signalized intersection at 42 to hold true, you must have the median break at the south entrance. Is that correct?
The entire left turns entering the site from the northbound vehicles coming from the south that access the site. The traffic impact study analyzed those as entering the development from the signalized intersection only.
Okay, then why were these improvements even mentioned?
To provide access for people to leave the development and take a left turn on
Okay.
or
to
provide additional.
I guess the
access.
confusion is there's discussion of all these things, but there's not clarification on what it is y'all want to build or you're willing to build. So I think that's the question that they're trying to get to. Are you willing to build a median break?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay. Are you willing to build the northbound deceleration lane?
Is this at the south entrance?
At the south entrance.
It was not warranted. No.
Okay, and then the southbound right turn lane.
That was not warranted as well.
Okay.
That's shown in the analysis I provided with my response to the comments that were issued off the first traffic impact study. Those were comments 2 and 3.
Okay. So, in summary, you're making all the improvements mentioned at the 42 intersection and on the South Drive median break only. Okay.
Mike, are you satisfied with that?
Yes. And they're still going to have DOTD review and issues to work through as well. I mean, that could change based upon DOTD's requirements as well.
Okay, the next question I have is, okay, should your development receive approval, can you go into a timeline for these off-site improvements to be completed?
My name's George Bonfanni. I'm the developer. Yes, we can have this. We can have the off-site improvements completed by the time we get the subdivision completed.
So that's by final plat?
Yes.
any other questions? You good?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure those comments were addressed.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this property, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak. One more time. Comments, questions from commissioners?
You guys have wetlands out there too? Has that been submitted?
It disappeared.
Hello. Mr. Bonfanti, is there wetlands out there at that site currently?
There's 5.1 acres of wetlands that
Be
have been delineated. We have a 404 permit, which has currently been tabled at the Corps of Engineers. And
You have a delineation that's been approved by the Corps?
Yes,
And your 404s in hand?
yes,
You got a mitigation plan with the 404 too?
yes.
Also, just a point of clarity too, that it seems like the property's changed names. It was Westwood Commercial Park. Is it now Commerce Center?
Yes.
That needs to be reflected in the minutes as well.
There's some nice old oak trees on the property, I know around the house. Will any of those be saved, or is everything going to be taken down?
We're going to try to save them all. I've had the Department of Forestry out there. They've told us to take down all the scrub trees and everything but the live oaks. They said that the live oaks need more room to grow. As a matter of fact, they've even suggested we take out a couple of those. I don't want to do that. I like those things. They're beautiful. Actually, I'd like to have my office right there in the middle of them.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Just one on DPW, in their remarks on the drainage information form. It just said that consultant responded, DPW has not been contacted concerning this issue. I just want to make sure that any comments from Mr. Rue, would you like to speak?
Yeah, well, we talked tonight, and we have a conceptual agreement, and it has to do with relocating a ditch that's actually going through Mr. Shake Snyder's property right now. It's not indicated on the map, and what we're hoping to do is to relocate. They agreed to relocate that ditch and put it along the north drive boundary of that drive entering into the property. So eliminate one ditch, and we have agreed to that. They have agreed to it. So they just have to be indicated on the plat. So they have answered that comment from us.
Is that a verbal agreement, or
verbal agreement, and but that has to be indicated before a final.
Okay, so we should state that in the motion.
Right.
Any other comments or questions? What's the wish of the commission?
I have a couple. I mean, I'm trying to. This neighbors credit union letter that you have.
Yes, sir.
They say they own lot 8A of Webb Estate. Where? Orientate me here.
That's the 4 acres that fronts on Airline Highway immediately to the north of this property.
Is that Mr. Scheckneider's property?
It's labeled as Shake Snyder, but this closing occurred about 6 weeks ago, and it hadn't changed on the map yet.
Which closing?
The closing from Mr. Shake Snyder to Neighbors Federal.
So and I guess a point of clarification, if he's granted the servitude verbally himself, is that carried through to the neighbors credit union? I mean, has that been passed on? If the DPW got the agreement from him, does it still stand with the credit union?
The agreement we had with DPW is to run that ditch along the right-of-way, which inside the right-of-way of the highway, of the road, which the credit union has agreed to.
I think we're talking about two separate issues, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
the neighbors. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bonfanti, but the neighbors' letter was in response to our comment about the entrance road falling over to adjacent property.
That's correct.
And it's my understanding that neighbors is saying that they're okay with that.
Right, but that,
Not to be confused with the issue, maybe it is the same, because I'm not sure where the ditch is. I don't think we're talking about the same issue here.
well, I was getting to the driveway, and then he started talking about the drainage, so it's one and the same. I mean, if you've got
Yes. The ditch will be, well, actually, it's
Agreement
gonna be
with one.
covered. We're not going to leave it an open ditch. We're going to cover it and run it along inside the right-of-way of the road.
Okay. And then that's fine. Now to get to the driveway letter, which we do have, if they agree that you provide access through their property, if this property were to change hands, could it be rescinded? I mean, and that's, I guess, my question. Is it a legal document for maybe a
Which property?
subsequent?
Are you talking about the neighbor's federal
neighbor's
property?
federal
If they-
credit.
If they sold their property?
Correct.
Well,
It's not right away. It's a servitude.
I know.
It's
but
not a permanent.
As soon as we get the final drawings, we're going to record it all, and it will run with the land.
Okay. Okay. And then just on this new plat that you now have Enterprise Avenue running back to connect to the.
That's correct.
Why is that? Why did you change it from a T to a?
We
Connectivity.
originally had it running to the west property line, and at the request of a couple of investors, we shortened that street and stopped it at the property line between 19 and 20. And subsequently, we've agreed to run it all the way to the back portion to give better access to the rear. There's 59 acres in the back of this property, and if and when that gets developed, we felt like it would be better to give two accesses rather than just have the one at Gateway Drive.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Can only look at this piece of property.
Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
One more, Michael. Based on what you've heard tonight, dealing with the comments, are you satisfied with the replies?
Yes, I mean, I think that they are doing the improvements to satisfy the offsets. I think there was some confusion about the improvements suggested maybe in the study, and we were simply trying to clarify, well, if you mention them, are you doing them? But I would be concerned if they weren't doing the south median opening because of the load it would place on the signalized intersection at 42. So I think with that median opening that they'll be fine.
You're referring to that last comment, A?
Yes, yes.
Nobody spoke.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve, contingent upon, get this right, this is going to be a long motion. All of the comments as addressed in the ERA's statement here, with the exception of the last comment, the last bulleted comment, items B and C. Am I understanding that correctly, Mike? Those two were okay. And Mr. Rue, you may need to help me out on this agreement, this agreement with DPW regarding the improvements.
Yeah, the only addition is the relocation of the existing ditch going through as per the plat, the map here, the Mr. Shakespeare's property. I think it's just turned over to somebody else. Elimination of the existing drainage ditch, put it along the road servitude covered, and eliminate the ditch that's presently going through the what's labeled as Mr. Shakespeare's property.
Mr. Bonifani, is that acceptable?
That is acceptable.
And last, dealing with the timeline, that all traffic improvements are complete by the time of final plat. Did I forget anything?
I think you covered it.
That's my motion.
I second it.
I have a motion to approve conditions by Mike Bardwell, seconded by Alan Kraus. Is there any opposition or discussion?
One final comment before we close it out. The letter says Westwood Commercial Park. So you may want to go back to this Federal Credit Union people and get them to change the name of your property to Commerce Center so that everything lines up with the same name.
That's not a problem.
Thanks.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Thanks, sir. Item 10, public hearing for granting final approval to the following subdivisions. 10A, Oaks on the Bluff, second filing.
My name is Derek Murphy with Parish Engineering. From my understanding, everything on the final plat punch list has been addressed, and DPW and Charles is okay with everything. We ask for your approval for final approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Yes, I've got one. Dealing with the bridge that connects.
You're on the wrong piece of property. I've got a question. There's a comment here. During inspection, it was determined there's a drainage ditch for this filing which runs across rear of lots 9 and 10. Beach Ridge subdivision is shown on this map. Our engineers were told that the area where the ditch runs is common area. And apparently we need to go ahead and clear this up.
Okay. Did it not get, Michael, did it not get done during the final?
Are you sure that's the right?
I think you two are on the wrong one.
Which one you guys on?
That's
Well,
on.
wait a minute.
I think that's Manchac Harbor.
I thought I was.
Yeah, lots 107 and 108.
Manchac Harbor, fourth filing is what that letter was about.
Everything was in order.
You were pretty nervous, weren't you?
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on.
News to you, huh?
Got a bridge.
Well, I don't have a question for you.
Can you build a bridge?
I do. On the stub out, is that stub out going all the way to the property line? On the let's see, that would be on the south side of the property.
I'm not sure. Mike, I'll borrow final plan.
Vista Drive.
Well, the servitude is the question is the right of way going all the way or the actual road?
Both.
The right of way is going to the property line, and
How far are you stopping short of that
as far as the,
with the stub out?
I think it goes right up to there. I'm not sure that.
Let me make a comment on that, Mike. A lot of times we allow them to stop about 20 feet short because a lot of times we have these the 15-foot rear yard swales passing through there, and rather than build the road up to the point and making them culvert that, we generally allow them to stop the road a little bit short. So it may not go all the way to the line, but as long as the right-of-way is there, another property owner could always come in and connect to the street.
Well, I've got a question then, and this, I guess this is for both you and O'Neill. If we have a subdivision developed on the adjacent property, who's going to be responsible for tying in if we want it tied in? Because with another development, there was a public road that I brought an issue up about, which the plat that I had another plat that actually showed it going to the property line. The asphalt went to the property line, but there was some question about that. And O'Neill, if I remember correctly, you said it was about 30 feet, and it involved a taking. So if we're stopping short,
but the right-of-way is going all the way to the property
I
line.
don't recall what you're talking about. The right-of-way goes all the way through.
The right-of-way is going
Okay.
all the way through it.
So that's connecting to the adjacent property.
all right. I just want to make sure that there is something there.
The problem is these rear yard swales, DPW wants to keep them very shallow, no deeper than 1.5 feet.
Okay.
Well, you're not going to get a culvert, and generally we cut our roads down about 1.5 feet foot and a half. And you're not going to get a culvert across that road at the same grade. When the new developer comes, that's really for him to figure out how he wants to do that. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense to try to pave it all the way to the line. It may be to the line, Mike. I don't know, but I'm just giving a point of clarification there that we do sometimes allow their plans to show the road stopping some distance short of the property line.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Wetland survey done for this property?
Yes.
What's where you at with that?
It was mitigated, obviously, to be built.
Okay.
I have a question. I rode out there this weekend, and I noticed there's a lot in the curve that has a big oak tree on it, and it's got a big old bank that's just kind of cut off. It's in the curve, and it's about 3 feet or so, and it's just cut off straight, and there's no sidewalk in front of it. Just curious. That'll be finished, right?
Yes, the developer will take care of that during development of the lot owner itself.
They're going to just put a hill up there going up to it, or?
That or some type of retaining wall or something like that.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I guess I'll direct this to Mr. Rue. That's not an issue with the bank being like that with against the road. It's probably 3.5. I'd say 3.5 feet of dirt there, right up against the. No problem with that.
It shouldn't be a problem, but we'll take another look at it and make sure. But we'll work with the developer to make sure it is resolved if there is a problem.
Right. I don't believe it came up during final inspection, so if it is a problem, then we can take care of it.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? This time we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wish to come up and speak on this property? Please come up, sign in. You get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Final call. Last comments, questions from commissioners. What's the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Alan Kraus.
I have a motion second.
And a second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 10B, Manchac Harbor, fourth file.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates. The comments were addressed, and I was told that the final inspection has been completed, and I'll punch list items asking for your approval.
That's good, because that's the question that I got for you for this one, too.
Okay.
Tried it on, just trying it out on the last one to see what happened, but the drainage ditch all across the rear of lots 9 and 10.
Rear of lots what?
9 and 10. Beach Ridge subdivision.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This matter should be cleared up to ensure there are no outstanding issues regarding placement of the ditch prior to the chairman signing this final plat.
I'm not aware of that, but I'm sure we will clarify it.
it's my understanding that we were notified, I presume August 7th, which was 2 days ago, that it was not a common area on the rear of Beach Ridge, and therefore the ditch, we were told verbally, was located on the rear servitude of apparently lot 217 through 219, but we have not been able to verify that in the field. You can correct me if I presume the information came from your office, so you can
Billy
correct.
Taylor, he's not here today, but I remember him saying something, that he had talked to Kathy.
But that is an issue that we can get cleared up.
Yes.
I would think we just need to do a field visit prior to the plat being signed to confirm that it is where it's supposed to be, and if that's okay with Charles.
Questions, comments from commissioners? We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up and sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak on this item. Questions or comments from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion to approve contingent upon the issue with the drainage ditch being resolved before it's signed.
I have a motion to approve the contingencies by Steve Barrow.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 10C, Bluff Heritage. Mr. Decato.
My name is Norris Decato. I'm with Applied Engineering Services. I'm the surveyor on the project, and we're asking approval contingent on a final inspection. We have not had a final inspection. We're probably about 5 to 7 days from working days from being completed. So if you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them. We're hoping you can give us approval so that we can proceed ahead with our maintenance bonds and what have you after we have our final inspection.
I've got one. I think I'm on the right one now. The bridge.
Yes. I started to stand up a while ago, but.
I can't even tell what's going to happen.
Okay,
right
let me
now.
tell you what's happening there. It's a prefab conspan arch bridge, and it's being fabricated in Houston. It's going to be delivered Monday morning, and we're going to install it in 1 day. The hole that you saw there was the foundations for the sections of the bridge.
That were in
That's
that?
correct.
Okay, that's
correct.
The concrete was down
What
there?
happens is they're going to bring in like 10 trucks. We have a crane. We set them on the foundation. We seal them, and then we put the dirt over the bridge and do the saw cement in the road. And that's going to take probably 1 day to put the bridge in, and then it's going to take us 2 or 3 days to get the dirt work done and do the saw cement. All of our curb is in except for the section that goes over the bridge, and that'll take us, probably a day to do that. It's about 200 feet of curb. So we anticipate being finished in 7 to 10 days, hopefully 2 weeks, and then that way we can call for a final inspection and get our maintenance bond and proceed ahead with getting the plat recorded.
I know when I went out there and looked at the property, I saw, some work had been going on. I guess the weather, the rain, showers and all had been slowing
Yeah,
down.
well, the biggest problem we've had is the pouring of the sections of the concrete bridge in Houston. 2 weeks ago, they started pouring, and they had so much rain, they pour them on the outside of their facility, and so they couldn't pour the sections, so the sections didn't come in time. And then, of course, Like this afternoon, we've had like 5 or 6 afternoon showers that have shut us down and delayed us a couple of days in the last 2 weeks. So, it's just it's a timing situation. And at the time that we submitted the plat, we figured we'd be finished by 2 weeks before we came up here, but it didn't happen.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Michael, I've got one about the bridge. Based on construction drawings and so forth, no issues with that bridge?
No, they've submitted the construction drawings to us, and we've approved those.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a question for Norris. It doesn't appear that 160-foot wide drainage servitude is extending through Lot 10. We may just want to, or maybe it's there and I just can't tell on my copy, but would you check that?
Actually, it is, Michael. In addition, we have a 10-foot maintenance servitude on Lot 10 also.
Okay, but everywhere else you detail the drainage servitude.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
In addition, I just want to make sure that there's clarity that it is extended.
We should call it out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's not a problem. We'll do that.
Any other questions or comments at this time? We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, come up and sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishes to speak on this item. One more time, comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the final plat contingent upon the final inspection and all punch list items being addressed, and the developer adding, as per Michael Sanji's comments, dealing with the drainage servitude on Lot 10.
I have a motion to approve contingencies is by Mike Bardwell. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Don Grant. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Item 10, public hearing for granting approval to the following, item 11, public hearing to consider the following servitude revocations. 11A, Charles Babin property, track C-1-A-1.
My name is Charles Babin, and I'm here to request a right-of-way revocation on a 15-foot drainage servitude. This servitude was part of an old track C2, which my son currently lives on. Hopefully you have a map that's marked with that drainage servitude. I had the land resurveyed to add to the old track, and that new track is now C1A1, and that will be used for his new home site. As you can see, the revocation of the above servitude allows him to center his home and to use that new track as his home site.
Any comments or questions from commissioners at this time?
And you don't have any problem rededicating that 15-foot drainage servitude on the entire western property line of track C1?
No,
A1.
sir.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? This time we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, please do so at this time. Come up and sign in. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow,
A second.
second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 11B, Duplessis Place, Lot 3-A.
My name's Chris Diaz, and my daughter here is fixing to buy a trailer on that lot, but the trailer was put on the servitude before she got to it. It was my sister-in-law's, and when they put it on there, it was already installed on the servitude. And the lots were changed, and because it was changed, the servitude was put there. But there's no ditch or nothing there. The lot is just flat open.
Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I've got one. Charles, is that just a misprint on there from Department of Public Works? Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? This time we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and do so at this time. No one wishing to speak. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? And what's the wish of the commission?
Based on the fact there were no objections by any of the utility companies, I move that we approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell,
Second.
second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 12, public meeting to consider the following simple division of property. Merton Irving property lots A-1-A and A-1-B.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates. Simple division with a waiver simply because there's not enough road frontage on Loop Road to have two lots. There weren't any comments. We're asking for your approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Okay. I rode out here and looked at this. I couldn't figure out which house it was because I didn't have an address. But I was just curious. When the mortgage was put on this property, they thought it was two lots.
Yes, because it's a survey map of record on file, but it didn't go to the planning commission and all that, so they thought that it was two lots.
Okay. And then, now they can't find the owner of the back lot?
Correctly.
Okay.
And this is the only way that they could retain ownership of that lot is to do it this way.
Let me make sure I understand. If there's a survey of record
It's a-
showing that, you said there is a survey.
There is a survey of record, but it was
showing
done,
two separate lots?
it's showing where they created that first lot. It was done in '94, and I think anything after '93 should go to the planning commission, but it didn't. So
Was that recorded in the courthouse?
yes, I have the number where it was recorded.
O'Neill, we stepping on any legal boundaries
No,
here?
because that was an issue when they passed those rules, that the clerk of court has to record what's submitted to him, whether it was approved by us or not. I think they've resolved that issue, but legally the clerk of court could not refuse to record those maps. Now I think that they've changed that and they do have to be signed by the planning. But that, I remember when that happened because I personally had some issues with that when it originally occurred. I provided some representation to the clerk, and there was no way that they could avoid recording those maps. But now they have resolved that, so that's very possible to have occurred that way.
So this just sounds like a housekeeping issue, really.
It's actually, it's a title clearance issue.
Ms. Jackson, is there access, if someone ends up owning the back lot?
Well, yeah,
is there
that's
there
why
is access?
we're proposing an access. That's
You're going
with
to leave
the,
them that, okay.
the,
And-
the 25-foot
And
privacy.
that will go with the title,
Yes.
so whoever buys this,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
O'Neill, I have a question.
Sure.
What is the timeline for finding someone? What if we approve this and whoever owns that property shows up all of a sudden? Is there a timeline where they cannot claim this property and say, here I am?
Well,
The bank, I think, had a mortgage on
On
both
the
of them.
front.
Bank it,
just the
bank,
front.
just on the front.
Just on the front. So if they show up, I mean, it's still
It
theirs.
doesn't matter, they still have access to their property.
Okay.
So the mortgage company's just trying to make
Just
sure
trying
that
to-
everything's as it showed in
Mhm.
that earlier survey.
Yes.
That was recorded in the clerk of court's office.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? There's no public hearing on this. This is just a public meeting. What's the wish of the commission?
Charles, have you seen that survey that's recorded? And you're okay with that?
Mhm.
I move that we approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell,
Second.
second by Steve Barrow. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 13, public hearing to consider adopting as policy a 6-month preliminary subdivision status report. This item was introduced to the commission last month. Motion was made and seconded to hold a public hearing. I hope the commissioners have had an opportunity to review it. If you have any comments or questions, now's the time to ask them.
I've got a comment and just I guess more or less discussion. I'm a big advocate for being updated on things that are going on, especially in terms of when we're reaching a trigger event that gives us the ability to act on inconsistencies and late findings and such. I'm not sure that we need a status update report from every developer all the time, regardless of if there's a trigger event. I guess what I'm wanting to know, Michael, put you on the spot again here. If something's going on, I know we just sent revised ordinances to the council dealing with status update and the ability to do that. Are you satisfied in what's going on? I guess I'm directing this to both Charles and Michael on these trigger events, like at the 6-month mark and the 2-year mark, that we as a commission will be notified in the future of events that are outside of those trigger dates. I guess if I feel certain enough that that's going to happen in the future, I don't know that I would want to require a developer to give us a status update report at a 6-month interval if they're in compliance with everything.
All right, let's take the two issues separate. As we learned a few months ago, or brought to our attention, the 2-year issue, and I've clarified this with Sean. The ordinance automatically, correct me if I'm wrong, O'Neill, the ordinance automatically rescinds the approval of a preliminary plat at the 2-year mark if nothing has been submitted. That's the way I read it.
That's correct.
And what I've instructed Sean to do is that when he gets a set of construction plans, that's the first thing he needs to check is, are we beyond the 2-year mark? So That being said, I don't know that any adjustment needs to be made on that issue. I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page.
On the 2-year.
On the 2-year, now, the 6-month, no, I'm not sure what the ordinance says, but I think it says that the commission may take action. I forget what the language says. I just want clarification with this. If you adopt this, are we to notify the developer? In other words, the way this is written, we're not even notifying the developer that he's beyond the 6 months. So are we going to give him the courtesy of having to track this and notify him and then tell him to be at the meeting?
Well, any of these policies that we adopt there should be emails going out to all developers and engineers at least the following day. Charles, within 48 hours. You say you've contacted all the developers and engineers. So I mean, this would be, I was under the impression that, okay, we're talking about 6 months from the date of commission approval. ERA staff would be keeping up with this, but also the developer or the engineer, the developer's consultant should be keeping up with this also.
Well, that's the part that I can tell you won't happen, and therefore, if we don't notify them, they're not going to know it either, and it's going to get rescinded, and that's where we're going to have some difficulty. I believe if you're going to do this, that we need to give them official warning.
Well, at the same time, though, it's not going to automatically be rescinded. If they don't submit the status update report, then they're going to get sent an email or something inviting them to the next commission meeting.
Right. And
if they don't show up for that, then, and I think by that point they would be showing up.
Who maintains that list?
Well, I presume we are. That's why I'm asking all these questions. I want to make sure I know what we're supposed to do.
I mean, basically,
or Charles.
I know staff does a subdivision summary each month, so a list could be generated from that.
We
and
could
so,
and you would monitor that, Charles?
No, Charles could. I mean, either way, the planning staff could do it as well.
Well, I mean, there was discussion about who was going to receive the status update report, and I think we decided it was going to be staff. It would be sent to Charles. Charles would then forward it to you, and we would get a copy of it at our next regular meeting. So, I mean, right now it's all centering, looks to me like it's centering around staff.
Let me make sure I understand this. I mean, when you're talking about the status update report, you are saying that regardless of where that project is, a developer is going to be responsible for submitting this status update report to the commission? Am I right? Is that the way the intentions are?
How he does it,
that's not the way I read it.
If it's going to be his engineer, the developer's responsible for it.
Yeah, but I read it that if he submits his final plat or construction plans, he wouldn't have to issue a status report. It says failure to submit the plat, construction plans, or a written status report within 6 months.
So one of the
I'm
three.
not trying to make a lot out of nothing here, but
out as far as the final plat, because there's no way they can have the final plat in 6 months.
That was in the other ordinances that went to the council. That was taken out. That was the other set.
What does the ordinance say now?
That was dealing with status update report. That's already to the council.
Yeah, the ordinance says subdivider does not proceed with his final plat construction plans within 6 months.
Because our overall concern with this was at the 6 month mark, we wanted to know where they were at, what was going on. And there's no way they can have a final plat ready in 6 months.
This is just tracking the language of the ordinance. because that's what the ordinance says. 2206 says, if the subdivider does not proceed with his final plat and construction plans within 6 months, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall have the right to rescind approval of the preliminary plat. So that's language directly out of the ordinance as it reads.
And I think the commission, since that's in the ordinance, the commission has the right to know who is beyond that 6-month window. I just want to make it clear, maybe because you're going to run into confusion because the developer is going to submit his construction plans at 4 months, and he's going to say, well, I've met my obligation. And say he submits it 5 months and we don't have them approved yet. So, I mean, maybe the simpler way to word this is just to require the developer to issue a status report at the 6-month mark period. If he submitted construction plans, let him state that if he's, wherever he's at. And that way there's no question.
So submit a status report in the form of
Written report.
ABC, whatever it is,
So-
written report.
Charles, you're thinking you're going to notify the developer and he would have to write you a letter as to where they are? That's the, yeah.
My question again, is that necessary? I mean, can we not just look at what's going on and say if they have not met this criteria by 6 months, then have a status update report? It just seems like we're adding a level of bureaucracy.
Well, I can tell you that probably the norm on some of these larger subdivisions is for us not to hear from them for 6 months. So you're going to be hearing from the majority of them at 6 months.
I don't really think you can pick and choose. I think you got to be equal, fair to everybody. Do it across the board.
I think the paperwork would be a lot simpler because Charles is going to have to check with us, have they submitted construction plans, or, it would be simpler to me, if you just, at the 6-month mark, you just notify them, hey, it's been 6 months, update us as to where you are.
I think that's the intent.
That would be the simpler.
Right, because I can see somehow something slipping through the crack otherwise. So if they file a written report with you and you bring that to the commission, they don't necessarily have to attend the meeting?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's only if they don't attend the meeting, then they would be requested to attend.
Right.
If they didn't,
They didn't
didn't
respond.
submit,
submit
They
a
didn't
report.
respond.
Any other comments or questions? And we'll go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, come up and sign in. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commissioners at this time? What's the wish of the commission?
one more time, who's going to be responsible? Staff?
Staff.
Not the ERA.
No.
If it's not going to be what this says here, you need to make the change. You need to amend it to say that, because otherwise, this is what's open for public hearing tonight.
Based upon what we just discussed, my suggestion would be about the 5th line down, the sentence that starts with failure. I would just say failure to submit the written status report. In other words, scratch out the final plat and construction plan. Because if you leave that in there and they've submitted construction plans, they're going to think that they've satisfied the obligation. And
That's true.
Yeah.
right, and what I want is if we do it this way, Charles can handle this without having to confer with us and find out. In other words, 6 months passes, he gives a notice to the developer, where are you? And even if he submitted construction plans, he's just going to write back and say that. But that way it's much clearer.
No, we need to make more changes to that, because it says if the final plat of construction plan is not submitted, what you want to say is that you want everybody to submit within 6 months of the signing of the preliminary plat. You want everybody to submit a report.
Status update report.
Yeah, if that's what you, because otherwise it says.
But, but the top does say, the top says submit a written report of
It says
what
if
steps.
the final plat or the construction plat is not submitted within 6 months. The first
That's another point of clarity. Last month, we had the ordinance in front of us dealing with this final plat at the 6-month mark, and we struck that word. It's not the final plat at the 6-month mark.
It can't be.
And we struck that in a motion last month. I'm trying to figure out how final plat's back in here. It says in accordance with section 20-206 of the subdivision regulations, if the final plat or construction plans, final plat needs to be struck from that because there's no way we'll have a final plat in 6 months.
And I'm suggesting that you strike construction plans too. Failure to submit a written status report.
Now you're looking at 5 lines down. He's talking about the first sentence.
Oh, okay. You're right. It's all throughout. Wow. You can almost strike the entire first sentence.
What it should read, if that's what you want, is in accordance with section 2026 of the subdivision regulations. Within 6 months of the date of signing of the approved preliminary plat, the subdivider must submit a written report to the planning commission of what steps have been taken by the subdivider toward completion of the final plat or construction plans.
That's correct.
Failure to submit a written status report within 6 months of the signing of preliminary plat shall require the subdivider to be noticed to appear at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the planning commission to explain any reasons for delay. Failure to appear at said meeting may result in a preliminary approval being placed on the agenda for rescission. That's what it should read. That's what you want.
You got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
If you're going to approve it, it needs to be approved with amendments.
Right.
Waiting for your call, brother.
What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion to approve with amendments per council's recommendations.
I have a motion to approve with amendments by Scott Courtwright.
Second.
Second by Alan Kraus. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Charles, just a reminder, you want to make sure that everybody is emailed or notified about this tomorrow, or starting tomorrow. Item 14, public hearing to consider adopting as policy the withdrawal of items from the Planning Commission agenda less than 7 days prior to the meeting. So again, this was another subdivision ordinance committee recommendation, which was introduced to you last month. And comments or questions from commissioners? Two items were stapled together, Scott.
It's that staple thing that threw me off.
A staff. They're sneaky like that.
Tricky.
Me too.
Sometime back, the commission approved a policy pertaining to strictly the subdivisions. If they were pulled from the agenda by the developer, they'd have to pay the fee. But we didn't address other items that would come up on our agenda. And this should take care of those items. So, the commission has no comments or questions, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item may do so at this time. Just come up and sign in. No one wishing to speak. Comments or questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission? I have a motion to approve by Paige Becknell.
I second that.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 15, committee reports. 15A, our subdivision ordinance committee. We met last night. We met last month, and items that we discussed were the commissioner information list. I'm trying to remember what else it was now. There were two other items. Charles, help me out. You were there. I don't have my agenda with me either. But we will be meeting next Wednesday. 15B, Strategic Planning Committee. Who's got that one?
I'll go ahead and take that one. At the last strategic planning committee meeting, several members from the council asked that we review our sign ordinance dealing with the double-decker type billboard signs that you'd normally see on the interstate. We've had one, well, we were supposed to have a zoning subcommittee meeting last week. We were unable to have that meeting, but we've got one scheduled for 2 weeks from tonight. So we'll be taking that item up in the zoning subcommittee. That's all I've got.
Okay. We have item 16, new business. And as I stated earlier in the meeting, item of new business I want to bring up is this, the problem we seem to have where consultants are not providing comments to ERA. And the situation seems to be growing. Some time back, we extended the amount of time for the process of submitting all this paperwork to the ERA to give them time to review it, to get their comments back to the consultants, and the consultants to get the information back to the ERA so that they could get it to staff and we could get it in a timely manner to review. And right now, I really can't see any reason whatsoever, no excuse, for not getting comments back to our ERA. Our engineer reviews this stuff to get a better idea of what's going to happen with these developments in order to give us a better idea of what's going to happen with these developments. And if they're not getting the information, how can they get a better picture, and how are we going to get a better picture to make a decision? Now, my opinion, I think that if a consultant cannot get a response back to the ERA, then the ERA needs to make that known, just the way it's going right now. Gets the letters back to staff. And at that point, staff notifies them, hey, you're off the agenda because you couldn't give us the information. Wait till next month. I mean, I don't want to deny anybody their due process, but at the same time, I think we should have the information that we need in order to make a decision. And I think the people we are dealing with should be professional enough to get that information in a timely manner, because they are being given enough time to do it. I'd like to hear what the rest of the commissioners think about
can't make informed decisions without all the pieces of information before you. So, you know, if they don't have, if the information is short getting to Mr. Sanji, who we rely on, then we can't make an informed decision.
I mean, ultimately, we're going to defer it anyway.
It's a waste of time.
So why even have it on the agenda to start with?
Well, it leads to longer meetings and deferred agenda items. You know, I say that we need to draft something or either state it in policy that those comments are addressed. I agree, or that gets pulled off the agenda. The meetings just go longer. We end up deferring things. The agendas just, they stay long because we keep deferring things month after month.
Right.
O'Neill, and that's not.
I need to do some legal research before I can give you an answer of whether we need to do whether you need to be a policy matter or whether that would need to require an ordinance because of the way this time frame set up. So before making a comment on that, I'd like to research that and give you a better idea as to where you need to go.
When does the advertisement go out?
2 weeks prior to the meeting.
So we would only have, if I'm correct, about 2 or 3 days after that deadline to notify you that it's going to be pulled, because once you advertise it, and you know, you and I had this discussion, you send out those notices, you got a right to for those people to show up and express their opinion. And you can't penalize those people because the consultant simply forgot to dot his
thing is,
I.
I don't know that it is forgetting. What I'm saying is I'm supposed to be dealing with professional people here. This is what they do for a living. Now, unless I'm mistaken, when they send out a bill to a client, they're expecting payment in a timely fashion. And I'm sitting up here as a planning and zoning commissioner, and I want information in a timely fashion to review, so I can make a decision, or I can have a better understanding of what's going on, so I can hopefully make some better plans for this parish as far as development goes. I mean,
you do have an option to deny their preliminary.
well, that was going to be my
option.
well, that was going to be my next statement. If we can't do it one way, we'll do it another, and the best way I know to do it is to start denying.
Well, you can't make a general statement. Each case has to be. I mean, the law requires you to consider each case on a case-by-case basis, but you do have the right as a commissioner to deny. If you don't have the information to approve a project, you can deny it.
Well, granted, now I understand that, but I mean, you know, we're talking about information that our ERA requires in order to make a valid assessment of this of a particular development. Because we are dealing with issues that affect the lives of many people, not just the people who will ultimately move into that development, but the people that live in close proximity to it. And right now, dealing with the issues of traffic and drainage, the time for playing games is over with. That's what I'm saying. There is no excuse for any engineer not to get comments back to you in a timely manner, because you have to have the time to review that stuff.
Well, the case tonight in the traffic, we asked the question and they responded. The problem wasn't whether or not they responded. The problem was the quality of the response. The response said that they would confer with parish officials and state officials and work together. Well, that isn't what we want to know. Either you're going to do it or you're not. I mean, you know, so the response was vague. Let's call it that. And that's what led to the further comments by us. So the only comment I want to make is that you're putting the ERA in a very precarious position of making the call. Did he respond to the comment or didn't he? And I'm concerned if we've got 3 days to get that back and confer with Charles, and did they, you know, is that a valid response or isn't it? I mean, generally they're responding. It's just not as one engineer said, he didn't really understand it. Well, he should have been on the phone
What?
and figuring that out, but he responded. Okay, he submitted a response back. It just wasn't what we were looking for.
Well, I tend to look at it as more of a black-white issue as far as they either gave the information or they didn't. And really, Michael, as ERA, the only thing that you would be, you would still be sending the same type of letter to staff. If they didn't get the comments in, then staff is going to say, hey, look, you didn't get the comments in. So it's not really putting you in a precarious position or CSRS in a precarious position, because either they did submit the information or they didn't. And all you're doing is letting us know they did or they didn't. And this is an issue that's been going on for some time now. Earlier this year, we had a developer, the consultant sent back a reply, or in your comments replied, they didn't provide the comments, but they were willing to discuss it with the commission. Now, if they can't give you the comments, I don't want to discuss anything with them.
But they got a legal right to bring that plat here. You got a legal right to deny it, and that's what the procedure is. That's what I mean. That's legally they have the right to do that. You can't tell them not to bring the plat, and they have the right to do that. That's what the rules say. And your responsibility is to consider the information they give you. If it's insufficient, deny the plat.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
the alternative. Or and defer it, but one or the other, but you can't tell them not to bring their plat. That's their responsibility. It's your job to weigh the information on their plat and see if it's in conformity with the regulations. If it's not, you can deny the plat.
Mike, I'd like to say one thing on your comment about being put in an awkward position. You were put in that position tonight on one of these plats because you couldn't answer, questions that we had pertaining to drainage. To me, you were put in an awkward spot because those comments were not addressed.
Well, not really. I just said, I didn't get it in time, therefore I hadn't reviewed it. The answer's obvious. But I just don't like, because what's going to happen, the entire focus with those developers and their engineers is going to turn to me saying, did I give you a valid response or not? And I'm one man. I'm not a commission. And then I have this authority to stop something from getting to y'all? I mean, I question the legality of that.
I think he's correct. I think they've got a right to bring it here. And if you're not satisfied with the information, if it doesn't conform to the requirements of the ordinance, you can deny the plat. That's the proper channel. You deny the plat. You can't tell somebody they can't bring their
And you've
plat.
got the grounds to do it.
That's exactly right. You can't tell somebody they can't bring their plat to this commission.
I'd like to entertain a motion that this be carried over to the subdivision ordinance committee and dealt with there, and then bring back, if any recommendation at all, deal with that and hash it out in that subcommittee, and then bring it back to the full commission.
We can do that. O'Neill, can you be at the meeting next Wednesday?
I don't know. I have Board of Adjustments the next night, which is going to last all night. So there's two hotly disputed matters at the Board
I
of Adjustments.
promise you, our meeting will not be as
I don't know. I
rough.
don't have my schedule yet, but I'll try to be there. And I can tell you whether I think it needs, if not, I'll let you know whether I think it's a policy matter or an ordinance issue.
All right. We can do it that way. Moving, any other items of new business?
I do have one comment that I'd like to ask, and maybe we've talked about this before, but on wetlands issues, have we not talked about requesting to see proof of submittal of wetlands delineations, coastal use permits, 404s, any of that stuff? Do you see that, Mr. Sanji, at all?
Yes, we get the rule is that they have to submit their wetland delineation, and now, correct me, Charles, if I'm wrong, but it has to be the delineation letter from the Corps.
And you see the letter?
The two, Charles sees them, and then he forms. Charles, that's part of what Charles does before he puts the package together and sends it to us. He's trying to make sure they have a valid submittal.
Okay,
And
part
then
of
we look at it as well, but the permitting side, no, we are not. Under the ordinance and policies that we have, we only ask for the delineation.
I guess what I'm getting at is that if we're looking at a subdivision and there is an issue, a wetlands issue or a coastal use permit issue, we could be saying yes to something that's not being approved by the Corps anyway.
You could, but you know, you have several state and federal agencies, DHH, DOTD. They have to go get all those approvals.
Sure.
So, and this has been kicked around several times. My position is, if you're gonna start asking for that, then ask for all of them. You know, DHH, DOTD, stormwater, you know, name the book, and you're creating a heck of a load on us to check off on all those things before they develop. So,
well, the constant theme that we hear up here every month is drainage and traffic and schools. I guess what I'm trying to do is understand if we can look at those three legs. Drainage, is the developer submitting everything he needs to submit in a timely fashion to address the drainage? You know, we looked at one tonight with a third of the subdivision being in a wetland area that's going to gravely impact the neighboring properties. The 404, has that been applied for? Is there a plan? Is there a mitigation plan with that particular piece of property? So what I'm trying to do as a planning commissioner is to plan these things out and not have it adversely impact the neighboring properties. I mean, you know, have we, and I don't want to make your checklist to be, I mean, you got a full plate as it is, but with those three topic areas, transportation, schools, and drainage, you know, we've got to, as a parish, we've got to be able to put our hands around as much of that as we can. And are we looking at the impacts to wetlands and the benefits that they provide for the existing people of the parish? And that's just my, that's my question.
Those need to be addressed.
yeah, I mean, if you want to see evidence of the 404 permit, that needs to be, the ordinance needs to be changed to require that. I mean, there's no ordinance that gives me the direction to ask for that. The other issue on the 404 permit, the Corps generally won't issue the permit until they see the local planning commission, governmental agency, has approved the project.
Well, and part
So
of the
it's a
404 is to submit a mitigation plan.
But you can't even get that far
Absolutely.
with the Corps. Well, it's a chicken and egg.
That's
you can't
right.
get that far with the Corps if you don't have a preliminary plat approval.
That's right.
So if you require that at this stage, they're going to come back and say it's impossible. Now, you could require a construction plan approval, which is further down the line. But once again, we're going to, you know, it's a big change. That's, like O'Neill said, it's going to have to go through ordinance change to do that.
I'm just concerned about that. I'm concerned about the rate that we're growing in this parish, the amount of wetlands and flood areas that we continue to fill, that we don't have a handle on that. And we're putting up subdivisions and properties and so forth based on our current ordinances, and if they meet those current ordinances, then okay. But the truth of the matter is, some properties we thought would never get developed because they're wet are being developed. And, you know, the Corps is going to make a call whether they agree with the mitigation plan or not, or they agree with the delineation or not. But these developers are going to find a way to put the developments in. And we've got to find a way to plan for the existing residents of this parish. That's my fear, is that we're not doing that proactively enough, I guess. And maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. But is that something we need to talk about in the subdivision meeting as well?
That topic has been, or the topic of the subdivision ordinances has been brought up on numerous occasions in the subdivision ordinance committee. We have sent recommendations in the past.
If you overly regulate someone's use of their property, called an administrative taking, and the parish, the taxpayers will be buying all these properties, which is, if the more and more you add to it, the more chance you have of the parish being forced to buy people's properties.
The less and less you do, the more chance you have of flooding people, that
Yeah.
exist. So and I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate, but I guess I'm asking the question: where do we stand on that?
Well, you've got to address it with drainage ordinances, but you can't say you can't develop your property because you might flood somebody else's property unless the parish is willing to pay those people for the value of that property.
The value of the undeveloped property.
The value of the undeveloped property, but its highest and best use, which would be as a developed property. So it's a taking. It's called an administrative taking. And that's an issue, that's a council issue and not a planning and zoning issue.
Any other items of new business? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to our old business. Item 17A, simple division of property, Manshack Estates, lots 3-A, 3-B, and 3-C. This item was deferred last month. We want to get some information from DPW. So the public hearing is continued. I would like to first let everybody know we did hear your arguments last month, and if possible, could we hold down on the repetition, because we have heard the arguments. If you have any new information to present, that's what we want to hear. But I mean, we heard the arguments for both sides last month. So anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, come up and sign in, and you will have your 3 minutes to do that.
Point of clarification, if they spoke last time, can they speak again this time?
That was also part of the reason for requesting if there's any new information.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the same individual could have some different information to present to the commission.
Okay.
I'm Mr. Josh Zeldin. I'm the representative for Scott Morris.
Yes.
Do I have an opportunity to say a few
Yes.
preliminary comments? In keeping with the spirit of brevity that we're all trying to adhere to, I don't really have too much terribly new to say. I submitted a position paper that pretty much lays out what I have to say. But I did receive a letter from Mr. Joe Cascio that was sent to y'all, and I would like to make just a couple comments on that, if possible. It seems there's a couple things I just want to say. At the outset of that letter, he said that this proposed subdivision would violate Parish Health Department sewage system requirements. And I don't believe that's an accurate comment. I just like to state that that's inaccurate. Secondly, there's an issue in the third paragraph where he states the sewage system ordinance in place at that time prevented a septic system being placed on a less than 1 acre parcel. My client shouldn't be required to adhere to prior law. He's adhering to current law. I just like to state that. There's also a reference to the raw sewage empties into subdivisions' open ditches. I don't know if I'm familiar with every square inch of the subdivision, but I don't believe there are any open sewage ditches around the area of Lot 3. Lastly, there's a reference to fire hazard because of the 4-inch water pipes. I don't think it's very realistic to think that adding 2 lots would create a fire hazard. I don't think that's a very realistic argument there. And lastly, the second to last line, no lot divisions went below 1 acre. I also think that's an inaccurate statement. There are some subdivisions of lots that are less than 1 acre. Aside from that, I'll just wait till to rebut the comments of the other speakers. unless there are any.
Martha Saltis.
I'm speaking both for myself and as the Vice President of the Manchac Acres Homeowners Association. And I'm sorry, I tried to cut myself short the last time, and when I did that, I missed a whole heck of a lot of things that I wanted to say. I am the co-owner with my husband of Lot 60 and 62. Lot 62 has nothing on it, so whatever you decide here could impact what I decide to do with my Lot 62. I'm also the Vice President of the Manchac Estates Homeowners Association, and we are here to ask you to deny this subdivision of Lot 3. The 3 lots will dramatically alter the look of our subdivision, which consists of 120 lots of 1 to 5 acres. Deed restriction number 1 states that there should only be 1 single-family dwelling on any lot, and that these restrictions run with the land. They renewed in 2001 for a 10-year period. Where these have been altered, the Ascension Parish granted a variance on family or hardship grounds, i.e. the Depews in 2001, their elders were old and ill and they needed help. Bourgeois Kleinpeter, there was a divorce in the Bourgeois family and he needed to settle up with his wife. And the Mumphrey brothers, they divided a 3-acre tract because they had 200-foot frontage on Broussard Road and 200-foot frontage on Van Broussard Road. 2, all of the infrastructure in Manchac Estates is 1970s-ish. It was very modern for the time. It was underground utilities. E-Tel, Cox, and Entergy have upgraded their underground services many times, and Atmos has put in their gas in the 1990s. Parish Water replaced our water well, and although they put new meters in, they left the same 4-inch lines in the ditches. And in some places we have 2-inch lines there. This means that we can't have the 8-inch water mains, which will enable us to have fire hydrants. So now if a house does go on fire, it has to have pumper trucks to put enough water. There are 1 or 2 people with ponds, but that's all we have. As a large lot subdivision with homes placed well back off the road and at least 125 feet or more between the houses, fire is an issue, but not as critical as having 3 small dwellings on 1 small lot. Additionally, there is no central sewage system. Septic tanks and modads are the norm. In some cases, the same tanks from the 70s still serve and overflow into the ditches. If Lot 3 is divided, that will put 3 more individual systems on a little over an acre. The sewage that already flows to the corner of Lot 61, 115, and 3, that's the corner of David and Broussard, is already bad. Lastly, we do have a flooding problem in Manchac Estates. First, with runoff water in heavy rains, especially at that corner where the flow comes over the street and has nearly inundated the Schmeck-Pepper House and the Bauer House on several occasions, and tonight was one of those occasions. Also, a portion of our subdivision is in the floodplain with the bridge on David and that at Broussard going underwater. Runoff and backup water occur usually several times a year at the backup property on David Drive, Cotton Bayou, and the property halfway down Faubacher, and it closes the bridge on Broussard. DPW puts a blockade up at the corner of David and Broussard, and mail and school bus service is curtailed for the duration.
30 seconds, ma'am.
Lot 3 is not the geographic center of our neighborhood, but the corner carries much of the heavy traffic in and out of our subdivision. All the traffic then flows to 42. Problems exist during flooding of Bayou Manchac and the Amite River. The precedent of creating smaller lots will only exacerbate the problem. Further, to allow such a radical change in the look and the integrity of our subdivision is unacceptable.
Thank you, ma'am. Time.
Thank you.
Steve Schmeck-Pepper.
I own a home in Manchac Estates across the street and downstream from lot number 3, and I oppose the re-subdivision of lot number 3 into 3 separate lots because that will add at least 2 additional sewage treatment plants, which will contribute significantly to an unhealthy problem that already exists. I am also afraid if the re-subdivision of lot number 3 is approved, that a precedent will be set and other properties will be re-subdivided in a similar manner, causing my flooding problem to worsen and my home to depreciate. I have photographs which illustrate the extent of the flooding during heavy rains, the ditches into which lot number 3 and others drain, overtop and flow sewage and wastewater across my property. Mr. Alan Allred, the East Ascension Parish Drainage Supervisor, was present on July 8, 2005 at the time these pictures were taken. Okay. This first photograph shows the area of David Drive and Broussard, and lot number 3 in the upper right-hand corner, and my lot directly across the street. The yellow arrows show the direction of the water flow, and of particular interest are the convergence points at either end of a 24-inch pipe that crosses under David Drive and terminates at the northeast corner of my property. The second picture shows, this is a view from my front porch facing northeast and looking at this 24-inch drain pipe. You can just see it there. And again, the convergence points. Lot number 3 is off camera to the upper left-hand corner. I'm also showing a 15-inch drain that is supposed to carry the discharge from the 24-inch pipe to Cotton Bayou. Okay, this picture shows a close-up of the 24-inch drain line coming under the street, and it shows the 15-inch drain that goes to Cotton Bayou, a distance of 500 feet. And you can also see the sewage and wastewater standing there in the ditch. The next picture shows a rain similar to the one that we had this afternoon, where the ditches actually overtopped. The 24-inch pipe could not carry the flow, and needless to say, the 15-inch drain to Cotton Bayou is not carrying this flow either. So this water with the sewage and the wastewater drains across my property. And again,
30 seconds, sir.
There are the convergence points. Okay. This next picture shows the drainage flow, and it also shows this wastewater continuing back to Cotton Bayou. And this picture here shows my septic tank, which is underwater from this flooding. And the last picture here shows the overtopping flowing across David Drive.
Time.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Harold Wickman.
I was going to read 3 pages or so, but we'll make it short. You've seen the flooding, and we all know that this was a large lot subdivision, and it was built in the 70s. All the infrastructure is designed around these large lots. One of our major concerns is the fact that if you approve the subdivision, then what's going to happen is the vacant lots that are available in the subdivision, people are going to come in and buy these and expect to be able to put 4 and 5 houses on there. The infrastructure that we have in the subdivision won't support those. And the only thing I can see is to say that without increasing the infrastructure and without increasing the water supplies and other things, that it's just going to be, you're going to be creating a mess in there of possibly 700 homes in these large lot areas with no control and nothing to supervise them or any kind of plan. So I'm hoping that y'all will deny this subdivision of Lot 3 and help protect our subdivision and the infrastructure that we do have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Teresa Hall.
Good evening. We bought this property. I've done all the legwork on this property. And when we bought this property, we bought it with the acknowledgement that we could subdivide this property. Okay? We have followed the laws, the ordinance, according to the ordinance. We can subdivide this property. Our property has no open ditches. I've been through DPW, just like you guys deferred our case last month. I went through DPW, ran the circles, went through CJ Godan, and was told by CJ Godan that the commissioners have never requested this information. Okay? He also informed me that if you guys wanted this information, you guys could contact him. At that point, I went and I called Bill's office. Okay? Never got to speak to him, but I did see another lady in his office, and within a few hours later, I had a letter or a statement from CJ Godan stating that there was no flooding issues with Lot 3 in Manchaca Estates. That was following the first statement that he sent to Charles Becknell, stating that there was water en route near Lot 3, Manchaca Estates. Okay, that had nothing to do with Lot 3. The pictures that the gentleman just showed you did show water running across David Drive, but there was no water on our property. We have no open ditches. Everything that we have gone and run circles to get this approved is completely in compliance with what the parish asks. That's all.
Thank you.
Kevin Landrino.
I'm on record, and I've spoken enough about these issues, but what essentially is being requested here is not just a re-subdivision of a particular lot, and this is already a subdivision. It's a re-subdivision of a subdivision lot. But what it is a request for development of 3 lots on a particular subdivision. Now, they haven't come in here and formally said they want to develop 3 lots, but that's what they want to do. They want to sell 3 lots in a subdivision that already has lots, and it's already a subdivision. So what's going to happen here is, if you approve it, it's going to go on. The next guy is going to come in and he wants to redevelop his lot. He doesn't want to develop it. He wants to subdivide it. And I think that in residential, if you're going to divide a lot in residential uses, you are developing a lot, and that's what they're doing. They're not saying they're going to live on it and their daughter's going to live next door and their son's going to live next door. They're saying that they're going to divide into 3 lots and they're going to sell it. This is already a subdivision, and they're asking for a new subdivision of 3 lots.
Thank you, sir. That's it? Okay. Sir, you want to come back up? You'll have 5 minutes rebuttal time.
I won't take 5 minutes. Yeah, all I'd like to say is just to reiterate a couple things. We have complied with all relevant ordinances, land use law, and I urge the commissioners to consider that we're just dealing with this one subdivision of 2 lots, not possible future subdivisions. The owners of Lot 3 have nothing to say about what happens in the future for other land that they have no control over. This is just this one subdivision, and ultimately, for to be denied, there has to be a legitimate health and safety issue. And I just don't, it is not realistic to think that 2 new lots in this subdivision will create a health and safety issue. It won't create, the impact that it will have on all health and safety issues is simply not large enough to be substantial. There can't be a significant drainage change. There can't be a significant sewage change. It's simply 2 lots. That's all we're dealing with here. And to speculate about what might happen in the future is unfair for Mr. Morris to address and deal with. All he can tell you is about these 2 specific lots. And that's all that I think we have to say. And I'll leave the rest of my time.
Thank you, sir. All
Doug
right, commissioners.
Hillensback.
No, it's over with. After there was nobody else. We've had the rebuttal. Now it's time for the commissioners to go ahead and have their discussion. And Mr. Hillensback, no, sir. I'm not going to allow it. No, Doug, I'm not going to argue with you. Now is the time for the commission to go ahead and deliberate and make a decision. Commissioners, you've heard the arguments for both sides. At this time, questions, comments?
I've got a couple of comments. Viewing this, I don't find this just a subdivision of 3 lots. It's a subdivision of 3 lots within an established subdivision. This circumvents the overall planning process. Based on health, safety, and welfare, dealing with inadequate water mains, fire protection, inadequate sewer systems, I move that we deny this simple division.
I have a motion to deny based on issues dealing with health, safety, and well-being. Do I have a second? By Mike Bardwell. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Second by Don Grant. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 17B, private road to be accepted into the parish maintenance system, Jackson Oaks Road. Is there anyone here representing the Jackson Oaks Road?
That's what would happen if it breaks the restriction of the subdivision. It would just go blow up.
I'm Edward Jackson from Geismar, Louisiana, and we wanted to extend the Jackson Road if possible. We're building 3 houses, proposed 3 houses across the bayou. And what actually happened about 25 years ago, when they built the road, they didn't complete it. They said, all your kid is small right now, and they stopped. I get this young man familiar with it. Excuse me. And they didn't complete it, but we had planned to extend the road straight about, I said about 300 feet. And that's why I'm here tonight, asking you all to give them. Got this heart problem, I'm sorry. Jackson Oaks Road. Are you all familiar with it? Alvin Ellis said that he had gave someone on the commission a map of it. Anyone has that? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And we're actually preparing to take in the road we started and go further back.
Okay, sir. Any comments or questions from commissioners at this
Yeah,
time?
I've got a question. The street that's in there is blacktop.
Yes, sir, right.
Is that the part you're talking about, or are you talking about from there going back to where the other houses are started?
No. The street the whole street is not completely blacktop.
Right.
They stop Well, I can understand. The parish saves a lot of money. At that time, about 20 years ago, all my kids were very young, and they were going to start building at all. So what they did, they stopped by Alvin Ellis' house. That makes sense. That saved the parish a lot of money. And really, now the kid has grown up. Now they start building.
What is the length of the proposed road that you're asking for the parish to take in?
I say approximately close to 300 feet.
It's not 535?
Well, not to me. It might be.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'm
that's what we have in front of us.
That's where you put it. I don't know. Seriously,
That ends, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, the parish road ends with the blacktop where it is today.
Right.
That is the parish road,
Right.
correct?
Right.
So everything beyond blacktop is what you're asking, 535 feet beyond where the blacktop stops.
Yeah,
to be
right.
brought into the
Correct.
parish maintenance system. Just a point of clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you're talking about there is it's gravel and dirt.
Exactly.
There isn't anything. There is roadbed or base. There is some ditches on either side, but that's it. So basically what we're asking for is city parish put the road in. Is that what we're asking for?
No, they're asking that. We're not.
Right.
Well, this says accepting the road. This doesn't say building the road. So if the road's not there, we can't accept it, right?
That's where I'm looking at.
Well,
It's
But we have standards for
roads. And
roads.
they're asking us to make it a public right-of-way. That doesn't mean they're going to build a road, but what they're doing is asking to convert it from a private right of passage to a public road. They want us to accept that portion in. Doesn't necessarily mean that the parish is going to do anything, or they may have to do something or whatever, but what he's asking is, what they have now is dedicated as a private right of passage. They're asking to, and it's only a recommendation that this committee does, but they're asking that the parish take it in, and that's you make a recommendation, yes or no.
And what's the benefit to Mr. Jackson for us to take it in, for the parish to take it in? Well, I mean, if we're not building a road, what is the benefit? Or what are you trying to achieve by this?
Up the street, I'm not going to call no name. Up the street, they're doing it. So therefore, I think we can do it.
What are they doing up the street? I'm not sure I understand.
Okay. Two houses. And the parish took that in. Okay? In our situation, we have one house, but we're planning on building at least 4 more. So I'm asking the parish then why we can't take us in. You understand my point?
When they took in the other street, down the street from you, what was accomplished by taking that street in? Did they pave it, or
they blacktopped
They
it.
blacktopped it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's really what you're wanting, is the road, your new road blacktopped, right?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Now, if they don't do it for anybody else, fine, I can follow the route. But if the parish do it for somebody else, I expect them to do it for me.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
So by accepting this, we're not saying that the city is going to blacktop this road.
You're recommending that.
We're
Well,
recommending.
It's not the city, it's the parish.
Well, the parish, excuse me.
But at the same time, you also have been given a list of criteria that tells you whether or not you can make a recommendation to accept this road or not.
If it meets standards.
And when I looked at it, it doesn't meet the criteria.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what we have to go by.
Do we know if the previous road that he's speaking of that was paved met the criteria? Mr.
Not the,
Becknell?
well, the thing is that
It's not really an issue here. The issue is this particular road.
and this is up only for public meeting, not for public hearing, so.
Looking for a motion.
I'm entertaining the motion.
I move because of the fact that this does not meet the criteria for bringing roads into the parish maintenance system, that our recommendation to the council is to deny.
A motion by Mike Bardwell to deny,
I second that.
second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 17D, discussion of approval of construction plans of 2 findings of Pelican Point subdivision and installation of traffic signal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I won't take up much of your time. I think I've delivered a very rambling letter as to what I'm asking for. I don't know if that had made it into your hands or not. I know it was a very last minute to be put on this agenda. The issue that I'm presenting here is we have 2 sets of construction plans that are up for approval. We already have preliminary plat approval. One of the contingencies upon approving these subdivision construction plans was the installation of a traffic signal at the entrance of Pelican Point Parkway in LA 44. Approximately a year and 2 months ago, we had this issue come up, and upon final plat approval, one of the contingencies was that we bond out this traffic signal and a subsequent turn lane into Pelican Point that the state is going to provide in the LA 44 road project. The issue at hand right now was, I think this is one of the first times the parish has been, or a developer has dealt with installing a signal on a state road as per requirements of the Planning Commission. We ultimately put a 1-year timetable on the installation of this signal. I think that was just a shoot from the hip at the time. What has happened is we have done our due diligence at that point of bonding to get the state to approve this signal. And I think we're actually at a point now where everything has been approved by the state, and we will start construction in approximately a week. I think they've been out there and made a preliminary meeting, and I think everything is set to commence. We have an approved contract recorded, and we have extended the performance bond for the installation of this signal as per the conversation I had with O'Neill. What we're asking to do is to for the commission to allow our construction plans to be approved so we can continue with development. And let me state this, one of the contingencies with the traffic impact study that showed that we needed a signal was the generation of more trips in Pelican Point. And I'm not arguing that a signal is not needed, because it is. What I do have an issue with is delaying our construction, which will not generate any more trips in this development until this signal is actually in place. It's bonded. I would be willing to say to the commission that do not approve our final plat for this development, do not approve any COs, building permits, but I would hope that they would allow us to continue or proceed with construction of these developments. And that's without going into a long drawn-out history of what's going on here. That's what I'm requesting.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
Yes, what was your exact reasons why the signal was not in yet?
Well, at the time when we said it was going to take a year, approximately a year, the developer agreed to put it in. We didn't have an issue with actually paying for the signal. So on a recommendation from the commission, we went ahead and bonded that signal with a 1-year time frame for us to install it. Dealing with the state, dealing with getting state approval, dealing with getting the signal light approved. I'm not real up to speed on the process there, but it was a longer process than what we had originally anticipated.
So filing for all the necessary things with
Correct.
DOTD
Correct.
held this up to this extent?
Held this up to this extent, and he can speak, Burt Moore can speak on that.
Burt Moore, Neil Schaefer in Baton Rouge. Currently, the signal is already under contract. We have a contractor, Jack B. Harper. He's installing the signal. He's already went through and had all his shop drawings approved by DOTD. His contract time is going to expire, I believe it's in approximately 30 days. So the signal should be up and functioning in 30 days. DOTD is in the process of widening 44 in this vicinity. They plan to let in October. We went through some conflicts with their design and our design, just trying to mesh everything out to make sure that the traffic signal we install won't have to be removed prior to them widening the road. So, but everything's on hand right now. Like I said, the traffic signal should be operational in about a month.
And how much time are you requesting?
I'm not necessarily requesting any more time. The bond has been extended. I'm requesting the approval of our construction plans.
How long was the how long was the surety bond extended for?
The surety bond is indefinite, and I'm not sure.
Which bonding? The bonding on just the traffic light are we talking about?
6 months. Okay.
So.
My conversation, and I'm not up on bonds by any means, but my conversation with my bonding attorney said that the bond automatically extends unless it is called. If that's not the case, then that's fine. Okay.
That's why we're concerned.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's an issue of re-upping the bond, I don't have a problem with that. It was never brought to my attention. It was, I think, a month and a half ago, and I sent out a letter to O'Neill. I'm sure it ultimately got into his hands, stating that we would re-up this bond if that's what the parish wanted. Just don't hold up the process. We're adamant about putting the signal in. It's just, I think it's beyond our control, the time frame.
May I ask a few questions, Chairman? When will we physically see foundations or poles going up so that we can see some progress?
I had a meeting Thursday, August 3rd, with DOTD, the contractor, and various utility companies and Pelican Point. We marked the approximate locations of the poles as they were shown on the plans. We excavated a 24-inch force main that goes in front just to double check that our pole was in the proper spot. As for the time frame on when you can expect the foundation, I would have to double check with the contractor, but definitely in a few weeks.
Okay. Second question, the improvements DOTD is making, will that satisfy this turn lane requirement?
Yes, sir. They're constructing a left turn lane northbound that would service Pelican Point. They're also creating a southbound left turn lane that will service, I believe it's Pelican Crossing subdivision.
And you're saying that's...
in between, it's going to be a 3-lane section.
That's to be let in October?
That's to be let in October. I spoke with the project manager from DOTD about that, and she mentioned probably ground would start breaking beginning of the year.
That's a separate bond, isn't it, right, O'Neill? I think it's a separate bond.
I know that all the right-of-way has already been purchased, and they're waiting on some utilities DOTD is waiting on utilities to relocate. I know they've had a problem with a few.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't see any major issues besides maybe some funding issues if DOT has. I'm not aware of any of those.
They wouldn't schedule it for letting if they didn't have funds.
That's right.
I've got a little bit of an issue with what I'm hearing here as far as, in one instance I heard in 30 days the light would be operational, but now I'm hearing foundations and poles in a few weeks. You know,
The major, as what I do, I'll explain it to you. First of all, the contractor has to get all the shop drawings approved by DOTD. That takes some time. All the signal poles, all the signal heads, junction boxes, conduit, every last detail goes through DOTD for approval. Once they're approved, he orders them. And he can do things in different steps. It doesn't take long to install a traffic signal.
Okay.
His contract expires, I believe it's within 30 days, maybe somewhere between 30 and 45 maybe. I don't know, have the actual date on hand on me right now, but we submitted a contract. I have a timeline of the work I've performed on this job. Let's see, we got approval from Pelican Point to start the contract documents in February this year. We submitted a contract in March of this year. We accepted bids in April, and we send the signed contract out in May. So the contract time was 120 days, which is 4 months. So it should be sometime in the middle of September where the contract is up.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Once it's installed, who turns it on?
That would be DOTD.
So it'll stay up conceivably over a year and a half before it's activated.
No, it should be turned on as soon as construction's finished.
Is it actuated coming in and out of public?
It is.
So that you can run. You've already run the loops.
We're not running loops. We're running video detection on this.
Okay.
There will be advanced detection loops on 44 north and south. They will be reinstalled by DOTD when they go through. I've provided a list of things DOTD is going to have to adjust to go on with their lane adding.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? O'Neill, I'd like to get some input from you on this. Your
Well, I mean, the issue that
legals.
there was when it was going to be done, because we've been extending these things, and I think it was outside the normal process that we let them bond it rather than do the off-site improvements. And we were promised the project was going to be done, and now we keep dragging on with extensions. And my reason was saying bring it before the commission because it's up to you to decide what your position is on this. That I think we've gone above and beyond what we normally do. If it's going to be finished by September 15th, I don't have any problem with going forward. But we've been told these contracts were let, this was done, that was done, and that's why I said bring it before the commission. I wasn't going to say I'm going to recommend extension or anything. I think that's the commission's decision, not mine.
I guess I've got one other question. I mean, and I don't know whether we would be privy to this information or not, but if a contract's already been signed to construct, was that within the bond? I mean, was that within the bond amount? Just talking about prices and construction prices increasing. I mean, do we even have a bond that fulfills that amount?
The contract was not within the original 12-month bond. I think it was probably at or near the time that the 6-month bond was renewed. That the bond was renewed for 6 months.
Were you speaking about the overall construction cost being included in that bond?
Yes.
And I don't remember what the...
You're talking about the contractor's contract being, at what point in time did the contractor's contract get executed?
Is that what you're asking, Mike? I thought it was related
I'm talking about the contract that you have that was signed on May 8th, and maybe there's more to this, but for 120 days to complete, that's the full installation of,
Correct.
And that includes labor and materials, everything
Correct.
to do with installing that signal. My question is does the bond cover that as it is right now?
We were never privy to his
Okay.
contract amount.
That was my question.
In fact, Mr. Neil Schaefer provided that estimate, so I'm trusting they had enough money to cover it.
I guess my overall concern is, I mean, this is has dragged out. What assurances do we have that it's actually going to take place, that this light will be functional in 30 days? There's no right now, from what I'm hearing, I'm not hearing any guarantees, but yet you're coming to us because you want to make sure your construction plans get
Well, I think
approved.
the original agreement was that it would be accepted because it was bonded. The improvement was bonded, which allowed us to continue on with the development with the intention that we would put it in before the bond expired,
Which was 12 months.
which was 12 months.
And then we allowed another additional 6 months, and it's been, so it'll be 18 months real soon, and it has not been up yet, and that's the concern.
Correct.
And I'm not gonna recommend, from my standpoint, that they extend the bond. I did once before, because I was told it was gonna be done by the end of 6 months, and it's still not done.
The issue here is
you're
whether to
asking
pull
us to-
bond or not, right? I mean, am I
Well, the
understanding
issue
this
is,
correctly?
no, they're asking for you to advise, to tell Michael to sign the construction plans.
But what, we're not talking about the issue with the bond being?
Well, the bond is not expired yet.
The bond is in place and the bond is not expired. The issue is, we've got 2 more filings of construction plans that they want approved, and, according to the traffic study, the signal should have been in long before these 2 filings were approved. And if you read the letter, when you approve these 2 filings that we're about to approve the construction plans, our statement said that a traffic study had been done, the developer had agreed to put in a signal, and you approved those filings under the pretense that you were going to have a signal. Well, now we got construction plans ready to approve, and you still don't have a signal. So we're really communicating back to you that the pretense under which you approved those 2 filings has not been met, and we're not comfortable signing the construction plans without knowledge and consent of the commission. It really has nothing to do with the bond. If they don't deliver, we can call the bond.
Well, let me ask you this. Would, in your opinion, Michael, and yours, O'Neill, would it be fair if this commission made a motion to direct you, Michael, to sign the construction plans contingent upon the completion and operation of the turn signal? In other words, you don't sign until the turn signal is in place and operating.
Then if DOTD is turning it on, you may have
Right,
to.
We could go with just the construction.
I'm with you. I mean,
ultimately,
frankly, that's what I was asking. If I just saw some foundations out there and evidence that they were going to, I agree with Bert. Once they get a foundation poured, they can probably put the whole thing together in 2 or 3 days. We just hadn't seen anything to indicate that we've got that. So I would be happy if we just said we'll approve them once we see significant progress in the field, and leave it at that.
Is the commission comfortable with that? Can I get that in the motion?
I'll offer that in a motion. Do you need a certain percentage, Michael? Would it be better, like 25% of the project? 20?
No, because once I see he's putting in foundations, I know he's
to the satisfaction of the ERA.
Right.
Yep. So it's foundations, ultimately, is what you're looking for.
He's not. Nobody's going to go out there and do that for free. So.
Yeah, I move that the ERA can move forward with signing the construction plans once they're comfortable with the construction of the turn signal.
Have a motion by Mike Bardwell to approve the ERA, sign the construction plans on satisfactory construction of the turning signal.
I second it.
Second by Alan Kraus. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 18.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Scott Courtwright to adjourn.
I second.
Second by Alan Kraus. Is
Let
there
it
any
go.
opposition or discussion? Motion passes. We'll reconvene the zoning commission in about 5 minutes.